Okay.
All
If we
right.
don't say that the other person's stupid at least 7 times, we aren't doing it right.
Amen to that. All right, guys. Well, welcome to Give Me a Break. We're debating the economy today, talking about all the important issues, kind of doing a brief overview. It's a lot of controversy, a lot of good stuff. I've assembled a team of righties and lefties here to discuss the economy. It's been a wild week, so it's going to be a good time. We'll start off with Tyler. Tell us who you are, what you do, and you can go ahead and give your intro on the topic as well.
Average debate enjoyer, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and I am neo-Keynesian, kind of coming at it from that approach. There's some even intellectual diversity inside the neo-Keynesian movement, so I'm sure you're going to see some of the specifics on there, but I kind of break away with the Bill Clinton wing on immigration, law and order, and global trade. So otherwise, I'm kind of a Clinton Democrat.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Mr. Grid.
Yeah, I'm Grid One Motorsports. I just comment on the internet, debate occasionally, and yeah, that's about it. I have a
Fantastic.
channel.
Yeah, check it out. Non-fun.
I'm Non-Fun. I stream on YouTube at Non-Fun, Twitch and Kick at Non-Fun420, and I talk about the economy a decent amount. I'm no expert, but I'm happy to explain why Trump is bad today.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thornhorn.
I'm the Thornhorn on Twitch. I do stream occasionally. Usually it's just trying to find e-girls, but today we're learning about the economy. And I also got my degree in economics, so hopefully that actually helps somewhat.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And we got Wick.
Yeah, yo, what up, my G's? It's your boy Wick here, shouting out all the cool things that Wicks do. No, today we're here to talk about the economy, and my name is Wick, and that's what I am. That's what I'm doing. So here we are.
Thank you so much. And we will have one more join us. They're just running a few minutes late, but that'll be all right. Let's get into it. Is the economy going well? Is it bad? Is there a method to Trump's madness? Who knows? Hopefully one of these people do. We can discuss it. Let's talk about it. We'll start with Tyler. What do you think?
It's been pretty rocky for the last few years. It looks like the post-COVID spending, restarting the economy, and a bunch of other factors, some of it being the Biden administration's fault, some of it being the Trump administration's fault, have led to some not so great times. I gotta defer to polling like I always do and say nobody's happy with the economy now. They're slightly happier under Trump, but it's not very much. It's only like 5 points higher. So something needs to give. We need to get some reprieve for high prices and a first priority over immigration, I feel like, would really swing things more in Trump's direction, but it's not good.
All right. Thank you so much. Grid.
Yeah, okay. I think Trump came in hot. He's been stymied by the existing powers that be, pillars of whatever you want to call it, the Congress or whatever, however you want to look at it. It's all fine. We can get into that in detail. The one thing is that, as far as the economy goes, he is making good on his campaign promises of, for example, border security and deportations, middle-class tax relief. There's a 10% rate reduction proposed for earners under 150K. That's pending in Congress, obviously, so he can only do so much. But yeah, I mean, I think, honestly, I really can't add a lot to what Tyler said beyond just that. There we go. Roll with it.
Thank you so much. Non-fun.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we're seeing is not actually that right now. It's not exactly different from the last, 4 years or whatever, where the hard data around the economy appears to be pretty decent. We have the payrolls report was above expectations. The jobless claims that just came out were basically about expectations. But if you look at consumer sentiment, I think that's falling. If you look at sort of the soft data and the vibes, all that seems to be down. And I will say, I think it's rational for people and firms to anticipate worse times incoming because of the things that Trump is doing, like tariffs. And I would also like a clear answer from every conservative here, because I'm very worried about what would happen if Trump fired Jerome Powell. And I want to know, would these people support Trump or support Trump's decision to fire Jerome Powell, for monetary policy reasons?
Thank you so much. Yeah, and just ignore my cat. He's doing the Elon salute. No judgment. He might have been, reincarnated as somebody. Who knows? Thornhorn.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that like the kind of steps that have been taken so far have been to the detriment of the U.S. economy at this point. From kind of top to bottom, on what I've seen, it's not really anything that's conducive towards a roaring great economy, and using tariffs as like a bargaining chip to play with the stock market and stuff, not great. So,
Thank you so much. And Wick.
Yeah, so one of the things that I've learned in the last couple months about the economy is that there is a crash the economy button. I didn't know it existed, but I do know now, and Trump hit that button as hard as he could. We're seeing the stock market plunge. It's recovered a little bit, but it's still way down. 10-year yields on treasury bonds are spiking. That's not good, gang. The value of the dollar is plummeting. Also not good, especially not good when combined with the 10-year treasury bond thing, right? We're seeing mortgage prices, they're up to a little over 7% interest rates now. That's expected to go up. Powell has recently given several speeches and things like that where he says that the Fed is anticipating a spike in interest rates, a slump in job productivity and growth. So, yeah, that's where we're at. And we didn't have to be here. Most of this is coming from, again, Trump's economic policy, which is a combination of incompetent and cruel. But here we are, and I'm ready to talk about it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. All right, let's open it up. Fight, boys. What do y'all think? Who's at fault? What's
All right.
going on? Go ahead, Tyler.
First off, after Non-Fon's opening, I need to know his stance on pineapples on pizza. It's extremely important to this economic discussion as well. I want to go with, we're looking at, like, I just want to, throwing aside the partisan politics for a minute here, what we saw under the first Biden administration was, and again, it was before climate policy. He thought it was good. That's what people voted for at the time. I'm not knocking that in particular. And also the Saudis, the big Democratic talking point because of Jamal Khashoggi was to go after the Saudis. So those early actions isolated one of our big energy imports, and then on top of that, there was a lot of messaging to ban fracking, and then it got rolled back a bit. And the 12-year transition off of fossil fuels, certain regulations put in place that made investment into these oil companies and gas companies fall off pretty hard in 2020 because of the market messaging that was going on there and the acts of the administration out of the first year. So what we saw from that was every $10 the cost of oil went up per barrel, we saw inflation go up like 0.2, 0.3%. So just the cost of a barrel right now being around 55, when it got up to 100, that right there is about a full point of inflation on its own. And it's because all this distribution we need because of that oil.
But you do know why the price of oil was up and gas was up,
Several
right?
reasons. That was
But one of the reasons was that they were anticipating, right, a booming economy, right? When gas prices go up, it's because it at least this index of it, right? I'm not talking at your pump, but when people are buying the barrels and things, the futures in the barrels, they're anticipating a lot of demand for gas, right? A lot of demand for this energy, trucking, transportation, etc. It's generally, again, it's a little more complicated than this, right? But it's generally a sign of a healthy economy that they're.
I got to call you out on that one, Whit.
You got to call me out on that one.
Absolutely true.
I got to call you out on that one. That's bullshit. The reason the gas and oil prices went up is because we started offshoring our oil production again. We shut down
When?
most of the oil production in the United States, which drove
what about Alaska?
because we drove back in 2003, 4, 5 through basically 2010.
Okay. I'm not
we
talking about
drove the
2003,
price of
4,
barrels
5. I'm
down.
talking about the last 5 years. Let's stick to that.
Well,
Wait.
hold on. If it's pertinent to overall trend, you might want to
Is it?
I don't know. Let's find out.
It is pertinent to the overall trend. The United States drove the price of oil down below $50 a barrel. Actually, this was 2010, 2012, I guess, in that area. We drove it down below the price of $50 a barrel. The entire world was about to lose their minds. They went insane. So as soon as possible, they wrecked that. They literally shut down oil production in the United States to drive the price of oil back up. And that's why this bullshit that you're spewing about futures and economic game plan and all of that is horseshit. You don't.
Also, it was coming out of the biggest recession of like recent history too, and that's when the economy was actually starting to activate again, right around that time.
That would be why. Yes. And so this idea, right, that one of the indicators of the coming recession, right, is the fact that oil prices are plummeting, because again, investors are anticipating a slowdown in the economy, that there's not going to be as much demand for energy, gas, etc., and going into like trucking, shipping, etc. And it is a red flag, if you will, right? So you can talk about production, and that's fair, but at least during Biden's term, we've seen some of the biggest increases in energy production in my home state of Pennsylvania, for example.
That doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah, I
That
think
doesn't take
Biden
so
did
long.
run on clean
Yeah,
energy.
that's what I'm talking about the last 5
on.
years.
Hold
That's
on,
what
hold
I'm
on.
talking about the last 5 years.
When we were seeing the cost of energy spike, like we see all the time, things spike when we run out of supply. What we do is import. So, when we ran out of eggs, we went and imported a bunch of eggs and drove the cost down 60%. So in this instance, we would send somebody maybe to one of our trade allies that we import energy from, like OPEC, which we did over a dozen times. Tony Blinken went and met with the Saudis and OPEC and was denied every single time because of Biden's year one actions, isolating the Saudis, taking the Houthis off the terror watch list, and stop selling the Saudis weapons, etc., etc. I got a bunch of other things, which ended up biting him in the ass with Israel. But regardless, him isolating our ally, our soft power connection, and our trade ally in the Middle East screwed over our oil prices. And we can see from the Trump administration that is their number one thing, is bringing down the cost of energy and also exporting it. Right now, we're in talks with the EU to export the rest of the natural gas that they bring in so they can completely cut off Russian energy imports. And that would also help balance that trade deficit Trump hates so much. So, in a way, upgrading our energy and being able to sell it to Japan, who also said out loud multiple times that they were seeking energy from the Biden administration and could not even get anyone on the phone. Trump is like, hell yeah, we'll take that deal. Come on in and buy our energy. Shit, we're even going into coal now. It's good for the economy long term.
I don't entirely disagree, but I think this is why Biden sort of walked back a lot of the things that he had said about clean energy. And look, he did have, the Inflation Reduction Act and things in the Chips and Science Act that I think invested in clean energy. But he did also approve a lot of fracking. I think he approved more permits than Trump did. He dipped into the strategic oil reserve to try to bring down oil prices when we needed it, when we needed to do that. And
I mean, that's the leftist popular play, is to dip into the strategic oil reserves. They do it every single time when they need to lower energy cost, rather than let us drill in the Gulf, and rather than let companies drill, American companies drill off our own coast in the Gulf of America. They let.
Where is that exactly?
We're drilling more oil under Biden than any country in the history of ever, right?
I don't believe that was true.
Well,
Can you?
Okay, I mean, you can just look it up. U.S. biggest
And
oil
it's
producer.
not just
Can look it
energy
up.
under Biden. Manufacturing was beginning to see a renaissance, right? Productivity in manufacturing was shooting through the roof. That's, again, it's not yet, right? Because we're anticipating.
Wait, hold on.
That's kind of
Hold on,
going down now, right? That a lot of people are anticipating.
We
it
have
to
literally
drop.
in just the last couple of months, we now have GE, Intel, and most auto suppliers are talking about, or not, either have or are on the path to expanding or opening plants in Ohio, Texas, South Carolina, because of Trump's tariffs, because of the way that things are going, because of the plans that he's made. And those are the jobs that you guys are talking about that weren't here. The manufacturing jobs, they weren't here. They're coming back. If you want that, that's the Wall Street Journal Industry Index, March 2025. The Chinese are, the rare earth metals that the Chinese have us by the balls over, which is what you guys really should be talking about from a leftist point of view. We're trying to reduce that. The only place in America that we have rare earth metals is outside of Nowheresville, California. And so this all affects our economy. And you guys are talking about fucking irrelevant bullshit? Come on, man. Let's get into it, man. Get dirty. Get into the meat of the argument.
Okay, let's get into the meat. There was a $300 million recycling plant that recently in my home state was shut down because of Trump's economic policy, specifically the tariffs and his gutting or Doge's gutting of grants and things to like
Well, that's a
clean
great
energy and these
point.
things. We
Um,
lost a $300 million plant contract, right, which was going to employ
Sure.
thousands of people. Pennsylvania is really getting hit hard by some of these tariffs. And I got to tell you, right, it's not going to be good for the pocketbook of the
So
worker when
Hold
investors
on.
can't really
so
rally
Right.
on
so
America
And
to
also,
know
well,
what
look, I
kind of
mean,
well,
policies
I
are
want
happening
we
our
to
way.
have
let me
surveys
let me
from
let me just ask a question. Now, I'm actually going to give it to Non-Fon because it's actually because you said this before. I think on a previous econ panel, Non-Fon, you had mentioned that you didn't disagree that, but with the tariffs, you would like hurt one industry and another industry would grow. Like I might be paraphrasing you correctly. You agreed that could be a possible outcome, right? Is this not a similar situation, Wick, where you mentioned your recycling plant closed, but like me, for example, beef is booming, right? Like, do you disagree that this is a scenario in which, and then we'll after you answer Wick, then we'll go to non-fun.
No, here's the deal.
Beef's been booming for a lot of other reasons that have been just like culminating up to this at this point. So that's not entirely just like
Well,
Trump.
it's a lot of it, but we
Satisfied.
can go into that.
In principle, yes, tariffs can increase jobs in some sectors, but the argument and the data shows that overall, tariffs specifically hurt job growth in
I
whatever country
disagree. We've
employs
grown
them.
115,000
You
jobs
may
since
disagree,
January,
but we
Wick.
have
The
decades
numbers
of
don't
data.
back you up. We have 115,000 new
Grid.
jobs since January, Wick.
Go
And
ahead,
how many
non-fun.
of were
numbers
we going to lose
absolutely
because of these
back him
tariffs?
up.
These tariffs didn't hit till April. You understand that, right? These tariffs weren't in
Okay,
place in
but since
January.
January, we've had jobs growth.
Okay, we
Grid,
don't
your
know the
cost
job
You're saying
numbers
inference
we
is
you're
actually had.
saying in the
absolutely
last 2 weeks
horrible.
the
It
tariffs
doesn't
hit
just
and we've
because
lost so many jobs in the last 2 weeks. Come on, Wick. Don't be that disingenuous. Don't be
Grid,
that
there were
big a
plenty of
puppet.
times where we grew where we had even more jobs when we didn't have tariffs. It's obviously dumb to say that because we got a good payrolls report, because we got some good jobs report, that the tariffs are therefore responsible for those jobs. If you look at actual papers from actual economists who understand what they're saying and do actual multivariable regressions, things like that, guess what? They all say that tariffs reduce overall employment. And we have very good reasons to believe, like theoretically, why that would be the case. And I would also point out that we have surveys from both the Philadelphia Fed and the New York Federal Reserve. Both of them have surveys for manufacturers, and they surveyed them after the Liberation Day tariffs. We got these, reports like 2 days ago, and they both expect all these manufacturers expect their business to slow down in the coming 6 months. They expect new orders to drop
I
So
because
I have
we're
a question.
tariffing all
I
the
have a
goods that
question.
they.
and hold on. I have a question real quick. So I've heard the complaint that under Biden, I've made it myself. So that's who heard. I heard it from. Was that a lot of the jobs were basically the gig economy jobs versus what we're getting under Trump is going to be long-term manufacturing jobs. Do y'all disagree with that idea, or is it are we looking past this? Are we saying, no, lost gig jobs and gained better ones? No, you don't agree with that, or what are your thoughts?
I think that
Well,
I kind of disagree with that in certain aspects to it, just because the Trump administration hadn't really kind of done the soft work to actually implement a transition away from international markets into something that can be manufactured and built inside the United States, and actually did the groundwork to make those tariffs actually viable for making actual American jobs. So at this point, I don't think that that really is showing up. It's just we just tariffed a bunch of shit and we have no other alternate, so it's just fuck the consumer on that.
One of the
I mean,
one
I
of the worst.
appreciate you saying words that don't mean anything, but again,
Oh, I
Intel,
appreciate you
GE, and
saying words that don't mean anything either.
multiple
So yeah,
auto
it's really
suppliers
cool.
are reshoring jobs and expanding plants.
Yeah,
Ohio, Texas,
Mexico and
South
Canada,
Carolina,
it's
and
a
my
pretty
home
good
state of
time.
Tennessee are all seeing either new plants or an expansion of existing plants because we're reshoring those jobs. Now,
So
if Intel,
there are 5 U.S.
GE,
auto plants that have just laid off people due to tariff-related incidences. The auto plants that supply factories in Canada and Mexico, because the way free trade works, right, or the way our trade system works, is we have a lot of plants in America that manufacture the parts for auto plants offshore, right, in Canada and in Mexico in these specific places. But because they have to get the goods from Canada, and they assemble it here and it goes back to Canada, they're getting hit with tariffs, right? And so they're laying off people because it just doesn't make sense to have such an interconnected logistical system now. So what you're going to see is a lot of plants are going to go and simply only deal with one country now because they don't want to get hit with these tariffs over and back and again. So
They can
for
go
every
work for
job we're going
Intel
to
or
grow
GE.
here, and I'm not saying we're not going to grow 0 jobs here, but for every job we're going to grow here, we're going to lose.
Well,
like 2 or
actually,
3
the
more.
numbers say that you're wrong right out of the gate.
Grid,
That we
first of
are
all,
growing
you-
jobs. Okay,
you-
you get laid
I
off
agree,
at one job, you
Grid.
go get another job,
And then you
right? I
resign.
mean, that's how that works. It's blue collar
Oh
life.
yeah, just
It's how it
it's easy
works.
to get another job once you're laid off. What?
Well, hold on. Wait, didn't Biden tell all the oil workers just find another job when he caused all of them to lose?
You think that was good of him to do?
I don't know. Biden's your hero. You tell
Do
me.
you think he
Yeah, he's
did
your hero.
correctly in that instance? I don't.
I mean, yeah, I would say no. You shouldn't have
Okay,
screwed the oil
so
workers
when
over.
it's happening now,
Okay,
do you think it's wise for Trump to tell the people who are losing their jobs now to be like, oh, just learn the code?
He
I
hasn't told them that.
Yeah,
He
go ahead.
didn't say that.
Well, no,
I see.
Trump is saying just
Look,
fuck
Fred.
off, right, and die.
No,
right? That's what Trump
is saying that we are going to bring jobs back and there will be jobs available. And he is doing
Okay,
that.
so
Non-five minute Tyler. Go ahead.
So I mean, number one, this citing all these payroll reports, rings hollow when you guys were deciding the BLS job numbers were fake for like Biden's term. We had a lot of
They were
good payroll
fake.
reports under Biden, and you didn't give
Never said
Biden
they
any
were fake.
credit. You certainly didn't say it was
Don't-
because of
hey,
free trade we
don't-
had all
don't
those
stop me in
jobs.
my argument like that. I never said they were fake.
Your side did, absolutely. But anyway,
Well,
even if you specifically
my
didn't,
side is irrelevant to this argument. The points that I have made are relevant to
Now,
the
hold on,
argument.
was Biden's economy
well,
good?
I'm about
in your
to
opinion?
I'm about to address
Ask
the
him.
point you made, but
Yeah, just
That's a
ask.
great
Ask
question
him
to
directly.
ask me. See, you should ask me. You should have started there. I feel like I'm teaching a class on debate here. Yeah, you should have started there. You should have started with what is your position on the Biden economy? I don't think Biden's advisors did a particularly horrible job on the economy. The economy wasn't why we needed to get rid of him.
Oh,
okay.
that's
So
debatable.
hold on. I also
The
just want like your
socialist
causal,
aspect of his
your-
was a problem.
your causal inference is so broken. That's the point I'm attacking. Is that you don't give Biden any credit for like all the good payroll reports we had under him, but like
Because
now
we weren't
have good
talking about
we have
Biden.
good
We were talking
we have
about
good
Trump
payroll
and
we have good
today.
payroll
You
we
keep
have good
you keep
payroll
rolling it back
reports.
to
We have
Biden,
good
and I'm talking about what
we have
the
good
economy
hold on,
is right
Greg.
now.
Let
So I understand we
let
have
Levin
good
finish.
payroll
Yeah, there we
reports
go, Tyler.
now, and you're saying that like clearly these numbers support that all the tariffs are working because we're growing so many jobs, and it's like again, there are all jobs just generally have like an upward trend growth because output generally has an upward trend. Obviously, like every month we're probably going to add a decent amount of jobs regardless of whether or not we have tariffs, unless we fall into an actual recession. But look, again, every like empirical study, and I can cite you the models that would make us believe this as well, say that tariffs typically lead to a net job loss because they protect jobs in some sectors at the cost of
How long
jobs
does
in
that
other
take?
sectors. If you want, I can walk you through, Grid. I will hold
How
hands
long
with you
does
and
that
walk you
take
through
typically
for what?
for the tariffs to have a negative effect on the economy? How long does that take?
Most of the
I'm sure the
I
stock
mean,
market crashed when it happened, but
Yeah.
that's just like one small part of it.
It's like almost.
some effects like that are going to be immediate.
Oh,
and
so
then
you're
some
saying
effects are
immediate?
going to be longer term.
I'm
Some
saying like
effects are
that was
immediate, so
one
other
specific
things
So
are
instance
hold
longer
of
on.
it.
So hold on. First of all, I can only address one person at a time.
Oh, yeah,
That's
so-
okay.
Yeah.
I thought that you were just like super cool and could do everyone. Just kidding.
No, yeah.
I'm not an OnlyFans model, bro. I can't do y'all.
Yeah, maybe they got skills they could teach. Maybe they should be giving them some seminars. I'm gonna ask a question real quick, and then I want to go to Tyler here because he's been waiting. But I've seen the argument. Yeah, sorry, Grid, and then we'll go back to you. I guess. Don't worry, everybody get in there. Just write down the notes that you can. So that way you can respond to everybody. I was just saying I've seen people argue that the dip. What you see is an initial dip whenever you have tariffs, and then the market after a few days or weeks or whatever will adjust back, and that's what they call a correction. Do we disagree with maybe that being an assessment where we have like shocking news, and we shouldn't take the market as it's all falling apart from something shocking, and then after the news goes into effect, it changes. Let's go to Tyler, then I see you as raising your hand as well. Wick, go ahead.
All right, so I got a few things because there was a lot of stuff being discussed by people, a lot of it all at once. Overall, it is proven that tariffs in aggregate do hurt jobs. Generally, I've looked up a lot on here. I've tried to see, like, generally they say it's going to hurt the service sector a little bit more. I don't know enough about the deep economics to argue that, but that's just what I've kind of come up with other people saying. The tariffs alone are a tool. If Trump just put these tariffs in place and walked away, absolutely none of the things that Grid is counting as a win would have happened. So you have to look at the larger picture of what he's trying to do with these things. I think personally, I hear you guys saying what Trump's intent is. I think listening to Trump's speeches and Trump's daily comments and the White House press office and shit every single day, this is a united front to decouple from China. And he just said like 2 days ago that we're preparing for war with China, and that's why we're taking such extreme actions to push us and our Western allies away from them in Russia. So that to me is the end goal of all this. But what we're seeing is the tariffs in Taiwan. To Taiwan were proposed, 25% tariff to Taiwan for what Trump said was stealing our chip industry. What we saw after that was a $500 billion investment from a deal that Trump had worked out with the Taiwanese chip company to build here. Same thing with Apple. We're going to start tariffing. China. You get an exemption for now because it's impossible for you to transition immediately, but in a few years that exemption is going to be gone. They're building a plant in Texas for $200 billion with 22,000 jobs, and they're also building a trading facility in Detroit. So if you start looking at this, it's not just the tariffs alone, it's the tariffs bringing people to the table so that we can have these tailored different discussions. And what we're seeing with Canada and Mexico in particular, and now we're seeing it with other nations too, it was just reported, these negotiations, Trump is specifically asking these countries to put up tariffs against China. He's been very vocal about it with Mexico and Canada, asking them to put up barriers against the Chinese infringement, finding a loophole in USMCA. So at the end of the day, this is kind of what the goal actually is to decouple from China.
We're going to
Okay,
Big Red. Yeah, go ahead.
Sure. I want to answer your question first before I forget, Admiral Gibbs, but then I do want to address Tyler's
Go ahead.
points there. But to your question about how much should we trust the stock market, how much of the stock market dip was indicative of a larger problem with the economy, I think people are correct when they say the stock market isn't the economy. But what it is it's an indicator of how people feel the economy is going to be in the future, right? People invest in stocks when they feel that these companies are going to do well. I'm talking in general. I'm not talking shorts and stuff like that, but we're talking general here. Stick with me. And they divest from the stock markets and retreat to things like bonds when they feel that the stock of the economy is going to slow down. It's going to do more poorly. So while we can track when the stock market dropped in the last month, and when it started to recover, and every single time was based on statements about the tariffs from people within the administration, specifically Trump, and actions based on that. After Liberation Day, we had a huge decrease, but the market rallied a little bit when it was reported, falsely at first, that Trump was looking to kind of back off these tariffs. And when he backed off a little bit, or reportedly backed off a little bit, we had a little bit of a recovery, and that's been kind of going down since then. So to answer your question, how much should we look to the stock market? I think it's an indicator. It's one of many, but it is something we can't ignore. So does that answer your question? I hope it does. To Tyler, right, specifically, when we talk about decoupling from China, I don't know if that's I'm not necessarily against that as a goal. But can at least you admit that the way he is going about it is probably not ideal?
Too big of a bite of the apple is the way I frame it in my argument. He took too big of a bite of the apple on the world stage, yeah.
We can understand how perhaps on occasion a tariff for national security purposes on steel or on electric vehicles or on various other industries, perhaps. But that's not what he did. He tariffed literally everyone in a way that was obviously ill thought out, and then he kept playing footsie with it. Will I do it? Will I not? And this has created gross instability within the market, which is going to hurt everyone. People aren't investing anymore, right? People aren't going to start businesses anymore. And I'm not talking about people who can get exemptions like Apple, right? Or Microsoft or all these other places. I'm talking about mom and pops who don't have the connection, right, that a big corporation would. Because another, and this is just supposition, I don't know it for a fact, but my hypothesis here is another reason Trump has been doing the tariffs is so that he can act as a kingmaker and pick winners and losers among corporations. And if a corporation donates to him or his buddies, they'll get an exemption. And if they don't, well, you're out of luck, buddy.
That's really,
and I find that un-American.
well, that's really interesting, actually, Wick. This may have been a little bit of a rabbit hole, but I'm willing to dive down for a second. So, have y'all seen the autopilot app?
autopilot app.
I've been playing with it quite a bit recently, and Dan Crenshaw and Nancy Pelosi. Thank y'all. Y'all have made me a fuck ton of money. I gotta say, appreciate it. But the app tracks Congress people's stock
I have
trades.
heard about. I didn't know it was called autopilot, but I have heard of that.
It's
app,
really
yes.
cool, and you can put like a certain amount of money in there, and it'll it'll ratio out the percentage to what like they invest in what based off like how big you are. So if you put like $1,000 in there and then invest $1 million, it'll like basically do what it can to match that like per like whatever's the word ratio, to it, and it's pretty interesting. So like I know a lot of people say they want money out of politics entirely. What do you like? Do you have a problem with like Trump being a kingmaker if that knowledge is publicly available?
Well,
and we can all benefit from it.
Here,
Let's
let's look at
because it doesn't. Well, I guess just to finish that thought, because it doesn't seem like it necessarily is like insider trading if anybody can do it. Like if I at the same time, right? Like because it's automatically tracking it. If I have an AI that can track everybody's moves, and all of a sudden all the senators are making a move towards one thing, and that info is publicly available, is that insider trading?
I think it is, and I'll tell you why. I think that, well, not specifically the instance you mentioned,
Sure, right.
but I think that the instance where Trump rolled back the tariffs initially, causing the market recovery, at least to an extent, there was a bit of a rally. We saw some very interesting statements or some interesting bets being made, investments in the stock market, right? We saw people put up bets basically that the market would recover within 24 hours. They're very high risk bets, and they did it moments before the Trump rolled back his tariffs, or at least announced he was going to kind of be a little bit less harsh with those tariffs. He upped it against China, but that's neither here nor there. Earlier in the day, he had texted, now is a good day to invest, right? But that was very vague, very unclear. I would not be shocked, and again, we don't know this, there'll have to be an investigation, and there should be an investigation, but I would not be shocked that this was a form of market manipulation done by the president in order to make the people in his inner circle very, very rich. Because these aren't bets that someone normally would make. I think there's some evidence to suggest that there is some insider trading going on, and I think that should be prosecuted. Do I think it will? No, but I do think it is.
So you're saying abnormal bets are your backing for this fishing expedition. But okay, real quick. So doing personal favors for your buddies, under Biden there was an EV tax cut put out that gave you $5,000 extra off if you bought your EV from a union instead of just a normal dealer. The unions being one of the largest donators, a giant special interest group for the Democratic Party. Not only that, Biden was putting tariffs 100% on China, but other countries as well, on their EVs to make sure we were only selling US-based EVs, upping the sales of US-based EVs and then giving people a $5,000 extra cutout if they bought from a union. That is that deal making you're alleging Trump is doing actually in policy, where their special interest got a particular handout that nobody else had access to. And I heard it was a good thing. So,
and on top of that, the EVs in America are like absolute crap compared to a lot of other competition throughout the world. Just
China,
a side note, but
cool. I've been watching videos.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not someone who will sit here and say everything that Biden did was correct and right and perfectly righteous, and he was an angel. What I am saying,
you specifically said prosecution.
For again,
what I would honestly say, there's actual proof of collusion. That's what it is. What we call is collusion. When you go to somebody and say, "Hey, back me, and I'm going to give you a cut from the government."
The unions did not back Biden.
I mean, look, every politician is
for
probably
2020 they did
prosecute Biden because he's mentally incompetent, right?
True.
You can't prosecute the guy.
Well,
Look,
he's competent enough to apparently do these backroom deals, but not competent enough for you to.
Well, the judge found him incompetent.
Schrodinger's Biden here, but
Are you arguing that?
2020? That was years
that
later.
a judge found him incompetent?
Are you talking about
it was her. It was her. He's not a judge, the prosecutor.
Not a judge.
Oh, as a prosecutor? Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
But look, every
legal authority found him. For real.
Again, this is all deflection, and this is going to happen again and again and again during this.
You brought it up.
I'm going to bring up Trump. If I may finish. I'm going to bring up Trump and something Trump has done that I think is wrong, and they're going to be what about? And I want you to put a
literally
counter on
said
the
Trump
screen.
should be
Whenever I bring up
prosecuted
something Trump does
and
wrong,
and
just wait for the
literally
what about.
You didn't say
collusion.
wrong.
Take a drink.
You
Right? We'll take a
speculating
drink.
something
Or
was
what
done
about
wrong.
comes
There's
across.
nothing he did
You're a
wrong.
joke, Al. You're a joke.
There's nothing he did wrong. You flat out said that there's
Let's see
nothing
if
he
I
did
get
wrong.
along.
You're thinking based on your guess that there's something wrong. You're saying there should
Yes,
be
I
an
think there should be an
investigation. So
investigation
there's
into what
you're
happened
nothing
on
Trump did
the-
wrong. You
the
want an
day that
investigation
Biden-
and
or no,
prosecution.
I'm sorry, Biden, not Biden. You got me.
Proof
saying
that Biden did something that's what you're alleging Trump is doing, and you're like, no big deal, no investigation.
think these
needed.
are
It's actually
similar?
distraction.
Look,
That's
You think
hold
these
on.
are the
I
same
think
thing?
every
Hold
no,
on,
I think it's
let
worse.
Wick
I think
answer, then we'll go to
Biden's is
non-fun.
worse. You didn't give a fuck.
Okay.
All right, go ahead,
So,
Wick, and then we'll go to non-fun. So go ahead.
Yeah,
Again, making a policy position for an American industry is much different than telling your buddy down the street, "Hey, I'm about to do a thing. You better
Okay,
put $1
prove
million
it.
into the stock market
Prove
today."
it fucking happened.
These
You're
are
guessing.
different
You're
things.
making shit up. You're shadow boxing. You're
I'm not making
up a
shit up.
Yes, you
I'm
are. You're
saying that
demanding
there should be, as
investigation.
other
Show me
politicians
proof. Show me
call
proof.
for, an
Show me proof.
Hold on,
into
let him answer. Let him answer.
alleged, right? And I'm being careful with my words here. The alleged insider trading that I think that Trump might be guilty of. I think there should be an investigation, and it's surprising that you don't.
I don't, because there's no proof to start the investigation. That's called a fishing expedition.
I actually made
that's
money.
not
Hold on,
the
hold on.
standard
Just-
for
just-
opening an investigation.
Let's go to non-fun, then we'll go to you, Greg. Go ahead, non-fun.
Yeah, look, I'm sure every politician is going to engage in type of, quid pro quos to like some extent. And I, to be honest, I'm not sure of the legality of, for example, a union supporting Biden because Biden says they're going to do a pro-union policy by giving tax credits to union businesses. I don't know the legality of that, but I do know insider trading is for the most part illegal, and I think it's fair to ask for an investigation. And I also want to reply to Tyler's point about the
Well, hold on.
decoupling from
Let
China,
me ask you a
which we-
question, non-fun, real quick before you
Sure,
move
oh
on.
boy.
Do you think that's?
I would like that.
I mean, this is once again a little bit of a little rabbit hole, but for funsies, do you see any fundamental difference between that and saying Biden going, "Hey, vote me in, the checks will go out tomorrow"? Do you see any fundamental difference between the two of him saying, "Hey, to the union, you're going to get a cut"?
I see. I mean, there's a little bit of difference in that, like, giving unions money is like one specific, like, special
Sure.
interest that he's giving money to, and the rest is just like he thinks this is going to be good for America as a whole, or whatever. The stimulus checks. I would say, I mean, the latter is probably less corrupt and probably better, right? But
Sure.
I
I'm just
mean-
curious, but you go on with what you were saying.
look, I believe like the term lobbyist, I believe, actually originates from people who would go into Congress as lobby when they were debating the tariff schedule, and they would all lobby for tariffs on their specific goods, and they would lobby to not have their competitors be tariffed or whatever. They were or their inputs to be tariffed and all that. Look, we have a paper. I think there's a paper. I wish I knew the authors of it off the top of my head. That literally found that like steel firms or manufacturers who donated to Republicans were more likely to get exemptions from the steel tariffs. So I mean, I do think that obviously tariffs like give Trump the ability to be kingmaker and do these quid pro quos or whatever. And just to go back to the decoupling from China, I mean, I think Wick is correct in that this is absolutely not the way you should be doing it, even if this is Trump's goal, which, again, I'm not convinced that he has a solid plan behind everything because his advisors all contradict each other.
There's a lot of post hoc rationalization of his plan so that anything that
Right.
happens, that was a brilliant plan all along, right? But anyway.
But look, if you want to decouple from China, there are definitely a lot of goods that I would want to decouple from China. And I would say, one, you shouldn't be tariffing everything from China because the more you tariff, the more you're going to lead to what's called exchange rate appreciation, which basically makes the dollar more expensive. And that basically negates some of the effect of the tariff because it allows our currency to buy more foreign currency, which means the imports are cheaper. That's not happening right now because Trump's policies are also causing a fuck ton of uncertainty. So all these foreign investors are dumping their dollars. That's why we saw bonds going up. That's why we saw the dollar falling. That's why we saw stocks falling. And we know we have studies. We have studies from the IMF and the World Bank and the OECD, and also a bunch of papers from Trump's first term that show uncertainty reduces business investment.
The IMF that literally depresses other nations' currencies so that ours is better.
Based,
So
first of all?
there are. I mean, there are reasons.
I mean,
to do that.
it's literally its job is to
the
topple
reason,
nations.
That's not true. The reason the
Okay,
IMF
come on.
to an extent does that. I'm sure the IMF has in the past said
To an
countries should
extent, it
devalue
does
its
that.
currency
So in one
in world
breath,
markets.
you say
So
that's not true, and in the next breath, you say to an
do you think-
extent that's true.
Do you think
So
it's a
it's not
good
true-
thing that
it's not
we are
true that
the
the
world's
IMF
reserve currency? The U.S. dollar is the world's reserve currency.
Wait,
Do you
real
think that's
quick.
good?
Can I? It's
No,
a
I'm a non-interventionist. I'm not a globalist.
cringe. But look, I mean, to the extent that the IMF tells countries to devalue their currency in world markets, it's because that
Anytime
helps
you
their
want
exports, and they
to
believe.
debate interventionist versus non-interventionist, I am down.
Oh, good. Well,
So the
we'll figure
IMF
that out
basically,
later.
We will
the
set
IMF
up
exists to
something
bail
next
out
week for
countries.
that, but
Yeah.
I'll contact you. But
Yeah.
anyway, go ahead, non-fun.
Not if I
Non-fun.
beat
This
you
is
to it.
actually on property in
I
China,
have
by the
to-
way, so I'm kind of shooting myself in my foam foot. But
Yeah, the IMF exists to basically bail out countries that are in crises, and to the extent that they tell countries to devalue their currency in world markets, it's because they believe that doing so will help their exports, which will in turn stabilize their economy. There are genuine good reasons to do that, and it does, as Wick says, like help our own dollar as well, and helps us buy, imports from their country, and that's probably good for us as well. But
Yeah, I just. Oh, go ahead.
Oh yeah, go ahead. I was gonna give it the grid because I know I told him he was next, but
If he
yeah,
wants
no,
to
it's
finish.
cool. So a couple of things right out of the gate.
You got it,
First of
Tim.
all, I actually made money on those dips too.
I did.
And
as well.
I don't know Trump, and he's never given me a fucking stock tip. I wish the bastard would, but he won't take my calls because he's a fucking president. Should I be part of this investigation, Wick?
Well, hey,
No.
well,
Made a
just
shit ton of
just
money
to, just to add to their point, I mean, I'm gonna play a little bit of help here. Modi 201. I don't know if y'all know him. Not the sharpest economic tool in the shed, if you know what I mean. And he has made a bunch of money since the dip. So if Modi can make money doing it,
Okay,
maybe
we're
we
not
should
talking
investigate.
about. I made a 20% return on my investment. I'm not talking about that kind of
No, I'm
money.
20%
talking about-
ROI? Hell yeah.
Hey, fuck
I
yeah,
got my
dude.
money.
I'm talking about people who turned $10 into $1 million. We're talking
Yeah,
order of magnitude
So like
more return on investment than anything you have made. So no,
Are you
I don't
sure?
think that you should. Yes, I am certain that you didn't
Okay.
turn $10 that you put into the stock market into $1 million over that period of
Can
time.
you
I
give
am
me an
certain
example of
that's the
that?
case, and
Just
I will
out of
bet
curiosity.
Yeah, first of all,
Again,
hold on.
we don't
First of all,
know who made these
I
bets.
love hyperbole, but I did in fact turn a few small investments into a bunch of money buying those dips. Now, unfortunately, they keep retracing, which means I go up and then it comes back down. It's an interesting thing. I don't mind when I put in $3,000 and it turns into $50,000 overnight. I like that. But when I lose even $1,000, when it back traces even $1,000, I fucking hate it. Just can't stand it. So I tend to just pull money in and out. But nobody. I don't think that you can identify a single trade that did that, and I challenge you to right now.
Well, that's what the
You just made a
investigation is for,
very
because
bold
we
statement,
have
and I challenge you to back
again.
it
If
up.
you listen to me earlier,
You literally
I
said
stated
that
that there were
people
several
put $10
big
in with Trump whispering
Yes,
in
I'm
their ear,
talking
and they
about
made
that
$1 million.
levels of
So let's see
investment, but
that.
you won't let me
Let's see that.
finish because you just want to keep talking, right? And I'm about to
I think you're
explain
both
to
full
you
of shit.
these
That's fine.
levels of investment. And you can call it bullshit if you want, but we
It
know, we don't know who did it, but we know that there were several orders placed for very high risk bets that did, again, about $10 to $1 million in scope and scale. People made billions on these specific bets, and it's a very specific type of bet. And the timing, if you go back and look at it, was right before.
This is all very interesting, but you're not. So the thing about this is it requires specifics. I put my look.
I mean, I can.
Tesla
you-
hit rock fucking bottom. I told people to buy it $115. It went up to $600 a share. I love that shit. Okay. I could have told you that too. I don't like you enough. So, there's
I don't
there's
need
a
your
lot of
speculative
different
studies.
things. There's a lot of different ways to phrase this out. And people, you're saying that what you're basically saying is a stock went from $100 a share to a penny, and somebody bought $50 of it, and they made $50 million or some shit like that.
No,
and that didn't
this
happen.
is not
we
what
have
happened.
the-
Zero
Not
to
what I'm
zero,
talking about.
zero to hero. That's what I'm picking up.
I'm talking about
we have a video
type of bet that isn't just buying a stock.
You have a video?
Placing a bet in the market that
Compound,
is
you have a
only good
video?
for 24 hours.
Yeah,
so
look,
if
see the
something
video.
doesn't
I want the
happen within
video.
this specific period of
I want
time,
video.
it is null and void.
I
right?
demand
We're not
the
talking
video.
about
I
a
must
stock
have
investment in a
satisfaction on this
specific
issue.
stock. You
Demand
can send it in
understand
the
that.
group chat,
Maybe
but
you just
it-
don't know
Alright,
about
I-
investment enough.
I will
for
s-
There's
to
a
have
video
I
of
will-
Trump standing in the
Which is
Oval Office,
awesome.
specifically pointing at two people and saying, "This guy made $2.5 billion today, and this guy made $900 million today." Like the day after he, announced the 90-day
How many
pause on
billions
tariffs.
did
I
you
wouldn't.
guarantee
I wouldn't
make
mind
you
seeing that
think-
video, but I'll tell you what video I would have seen is the $10 to $1 million. Not because I'm
Hey,
saying,
that's what I'm saying.
and I'm not
That's
saying it
what I'm
because I
saying.
want a source. I'm saying it because I want to start tracking their stock moves because clearly they know more than I do, and I'm talking about.
I
making
can't
tens
tell
of
you what
millions.
video I want to
I'm
see,
just
but
saying.
it involves Wick.
Oh baby, Wick will probably give it to you.
Look, you have to pay me a lot more than you're willing
Yeah.
to see any kind of those.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's not
it's a
Destiny. You know what I'm saying?
$1 million.
All right, moving on here. Yeah, all right. So, insider trading. Is it insider trading? Is it not? I guess that's really up for the air. I mean, moving on. Let's talk about some other things. Do we think there?
Well, we have an organization
Go
that
ahead.
covers that. Well, the SEC. They'll figure that shit out. They're
Aren't they
scared.
getting defunded?
I mean,
or am I just crazy?
most of the government organizations are getting defunded
Oh, right.
to some degree.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think they're singled out. If that's your like point.
No, they aren't singled out. It's across the board for federal government.
And
They're
most
the
of it
people
is
that are
their
supposed to be
DEI
investigating this stuff.
initiatives getting
So
defunded. They're
them
not
having less
defunding the
funding
industry.
means that there's less actual authority to kind of prosecute on it.
Well, no, is it not their DEI programs that are being defunded and not the actual operational organization?
That's
I
some
can
of
tell
it.
you.
That's some of it.
Plenty
All
of
right, I'm
agencies.
gonna be
Look it
honest.
up.
I don't care about the SEC. Moving on. So what we're sitting here talking, yeah, that's
You
not.
know what? I
Nobody,
do- no, I'm just
nobody wants to
kidding.
sit here and talk about the SEC unless it's actually like and who's funding DI. Well, that's not what we're here to talk about today. That shit's boring. Here's what we're going to talk about now. I mean, unless y'all have an economic tie to it, then we can go into it. But I don't want to hear about funding one thing other than that. That's another day's topic. Let's talk about other things. I've seen people argue that this is kind of a paying now or paying later situation. With stuff like production and whatnot. We have examples of eggs being higher or lower. I heard yesterday bananas are up 20%, so I looked that up, and that's about 2 cents. So they're up from 26 cents to 28 cents or whatever is what it looked like. I saw the increase was, and people are saying that this is going to hurt the average consumer too much. I've heard many on the right say that the average consumer understands a short-term price increase for long-term gain. And that seems to be the Trump argument. Do we think this is something that's actually happening, or do we think no? Or is it like Thorne said earlier, where he didn't build the soft power and he's immediately going to the hard power and it's going to just crush us and we're not going to be able to build that? What are our thoughts? Let's go ahead.
No, there's a lot of narratives that came up before the tariffs, like the reciprocal tariffs. They were saying if everyone just went down to zero on us and we didn't have to do these, it would be easier. That was shit that was said before the tariffs. This quote from Lutnick was not said before the tariffs. So I would put this up more for Wick's post hoc rationalization. But what Lutnick said, it was a mini forced controlled demolition of the economy, essentially. And it's a market correction to get us on a track that he and Trump both agree on is better in the long term. And Trump said in the State of the Union there's going to be some suffering ahead. So I would say in that aspect, they're aware of what they're doing to that degree, but it is somewhat of a post hoc rationalization saying we're forcing a recession right now. A mini recession's coming, and we're going to do it in order to make the market bounce back better in the long run.
I mean, look, this is literally, broken window fallacy. Like, we're gonna crash the economy because growth is better afterwards. Like in the timeline where you don't break the window, you don't have to rebuild the window, and the money that would have been spent on the money that is spent on rebuilding the window goes to other, use cases. And look, we just don't have any good evidence that tariffs are good for long-term gains. Like we can look at the study that the IMF has. Tariffs over 50 years still reduced employment. They reduced output.
We've had tariffs in place over and over and over again, and they do work.
Yeah, and they were bad. We have studies on them, and they're bad. Grid.
We've
We have
already gotten
models that tell you why they're bad. We have studies from Spain that
Look,
say that
look.
Spain had tariffs for 20 years, and
Yes,
they were
tariffs.
bad. And
Tariffs.
also-
Okay, you're arguing tariffs as they are. Tariffs are essentially a tax or a sanction in a certain way. Yes, if you tax things more, you're going to get less of them. If you tax more income, you're going to get less people wanting to go out and get income as well. If you tax more carbon, you're going to have less carbon emissions. That's the idea of a tax. And yes, so if we slap this tax on people, we're going to get less of that thing. Absolutely. But like across the board, I am for taxing more for good reason. And making sure that our climate policy is here too, our worker conditions are met, and all these things are good enough reasons to at least bring some of this manufacturing back. Maybe not all of it. Maybe not fucking all 12% of what we export overseas or whatever. Maybe 5% of it. But if we can get more companies, more people working under these better conditions that we approved as our law, that's better in general for the planet, isn't it?
So I think
I mean, so I think there's evidence that free trade is actually good for the environment. But look, like some taxes are better than others. Like
Well,
obviously,
hold on, aren't you?
I'm in
Aren't you
favor
a
of. Hold on,
Keynesian? Aren't you a Keynesian economist?
me. I would say I'm probably between new Keynesian and post Keynesian. I probably have some post
Would
Keynesian
cutting
beliefs.
taxes be better for the economy or for the
Well,
environment?
hold on. Why don't we explain to the
It
audience in
depends.
case
I
there's
mean-
anybody? I know not everybody in my audience for sure is going to know what those words mean. Why don't you tell them what Keynesian is as an economic style? Somebody.
Let the economists.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
we got
probably
two
knows
people
the
here
best.
with economy people backgrounds here.
I don't know. Look, I would say like Keynesians generally just going to be more in favor of government intervention during downturns. Going to be in favor of like counter cyclical stimulus. So if we're experiencing a downturn, basically we should to an extent bail people out because that prevents the paradox of thrift, as I think it's
And-
Keynes called it. And I mean, I
hold
think
on,
another big part of
one-
Keynesianism is
And,
Well,
I'll
hold
let
on.
you finish.
That
Hold on.
wasn't
I'm
actually
going to let it finish.
defined what it
Well,
is.
hold on. I want somebody. Okay, y'all can define it, but I also want y'all to tell the other two competing schools of thought, right? Too. Yeah, that there is. So that y'all, I think there might be more, but the two main ones, so they understand. And let's keep it brief here.
Austrian is not a main school of thought. I'm not just
Okay.
throwing that out there.
I mean,
Sure.
basically, I think the big thing, the
Well,
relevant
I'm
thing
an
is kind of like the business cycle. So, like, Keynesians believe in the Keynesian business cycle, and it seems like monetarist and
I trust a communist just as much as my checkbook.
Sure.
true.
Okay, what's
You
an
know,
Austrian
monetarists and
Austrian school
Austrian-
of thought? Real quick, somebody tell them that.
Austrians
it
believe in the
emphasizes
Austrian
individual
cycle
action,
theory.
free markets, and the
Thank
role of
you.
entrepreneurship in
Excellent.
driving
Free
economic
market.
progress, often critical.
Fantastic. Wick got the
I read it off of Google.
Thank you. I know. I was hoping
Nice.
somebody would do
Ooh,
that.
Pisco is
Way
gonna
to
yell at you, boy.
go.
Oh yeah.
He's
You
gonna
can
yell
yell
at
at
you.
me, but as I said, I'm not an economist and I'm not familiar with all the schools of economy. But
Sure.
we can't talk about government intervention versus non-intervention, and we can talk about the specific interventions that tariffs are. Right? You said you were a non-interventionalist, so obviously you're against tariffs, correct? Grid?
I am fair. But at this point, we kind of have to use them because they're being used
So
against
you're
us.
not a non-interventionalist.
Actually, I am. I'm a, as Tyler found out to his much to his chagrin. I'm very much a non-interventionist. However, the fact is that we have no choice at this moment except to deal with things as they are until we can totally withdraw. So
No choice.
I'm
Why don't we have
personally.
a
Well,
choice on
actually,
that
Wick,
again?
that's
I
interesting. Wick.
support
I'm just
the
curious. Do you
tariffs.
think it's so bad that
I would. I love the
Oh no!
decoupling.
My internet!
Well, hold on. Let him finish this. I think he's bringing up a
You're
good
still
point.
here.
Hold on. I think Wick's bringing up a good.
Wick froze. Wick froze.
Oh, he's frozen.
Oh, he'll
now,
be
yeah.
back. Well, I think this is an interesting point that I'll ask that Wick brings up that is kind of interrupted on you. You're saying you have to deal with it as it lies, right? Like as it is. To play the ball as it lies. If you're not, from Happy
Yes, it was
Gilmore.
a golf analogy.
Yeah,
Got
right.
it.
Yeah. So if y'all didn't know that, we got some people in the audience that are of all age groups. If you do that, right, like you could say that. I feel like people don't want to admit that that's an actual. You're back, Wick.
Attacking.
Like an actual strategy like that. You have to play, even though you may agree with one school of thought. You're like, well, since we can't do my ideal form, well, let's do a play it as a live situation and like deal with it. That's kind of what you're advocating, right, Grid?
Yeah. I'm obviously. I don't believe in tariffs. I don't believe I believe in free trade. I believe in the least possible amount of government intervention. However, at this moment, that's where we're at. And so therefore,
Well-
we have to play the ball as it lies. I would rather not have any tariffs. I would rather us not send anything or buy anything from China at all until they reduce their tariffs. Unfortunately, our economies are too tied up. So reciprocal tariffs do make sense in that case.
So
You
To an
tax
extent,
me,
like,
I'm gonna have to tax you too.
we're all,
We're gonna even it out.
playing the
Sure.
ball where it is or whatever. Like I have my own ideas of what like a perfect tax policy looks like, and that's not the income tax system that we have now. But like I'm still not in favor of tariffs, even though I do support government intervention sometimes, because like we just observed that tariffs are like a super bad, regressive, distortionary tax that just don't really raise that much revenue. Like a 5% VAT would raise the same amount of revenue as these tariffs, and it's not nearly as distortionary. It doesn't affect business investment as much. And
same with the estate tax. I agree with everything you're saying about the estate tax as well. Let's get rid of
If
that.
I'm sorry, estate tax.
If we want to
Yeah,
bring
estate.
back,
estate.
Estate tax, the death tax.
yeah, the death.
the estate
death
tax,
tax?
I mean, I think there's
I'm just
reasons
throwing a
to believe
hypothetical
I think there's reasons to believe inherited wealth is kind of bad. I don't think the estate tax is a particularly efficient tax because it basically is just one-time
Sure.
wealth tax at time of death or whatever. But there are
Make
reasons
very
inherited wealth
little
is
off
probably
of it.
bad.
It's
So.
I have mixed feelings on the estate
tax
tax,
for dying,
but
guys. Tax for dying.
I'm not here to talk about the estate tax because that's what's happening to our economy right now. We're not like debating whether or not we should repeal the state tax, right? We're talking about the tariffs. Let's be real here. Like when we talk about government intervention, these tariffs, the Liberation Day tariffs, and correct me if anyone disagrees, but outside of in the last 100 years, these are the largest tariffs we have seen in America go out in the last
From America.
100 years.
From America, not in
five
America.
five different
that's
tariff
absolutely wrong.
policies. Absolutely.
Yes. So again, if you're a non-interventionalist,
You're an no. Stop.
you
stop,
have
stop.
to
Stop,
be
stop, stop,
at
stop,
least
stop, stop,
somewhat.
no.
Like you can't even. You don't even know what I'm about
That is
to say.
incorrect, and that is incorrect, and this is why. Because Japan taxed American vehicles 80% or higher, up to 120%. And we gave them breaks to bring their cars in. So, yes,
We
we were
put
tariffed. There were
tariffs
massive
on
tariffs against the
every-
United States.
Almost every
Massive
single,
tariffs
not
against
every,
it.
but almost every single
Yeah, but
country
they give us
in the
anime.
world.
Yeah, they did
right?
give us anime. We paid
Yeah.
for it though.
I mean,
We didn't. It wasn't free.
It's
Wasn't
free.
free.
It's free.
But again, I can't control
I'm not fool enough
Japan's
to get it free,
policies
guys.
here, but we
Sorry.
can talk about whether we support Trump's policies and the tariffs. And again, as someone who's a
No, we're talking
non-interventionist,
about
I'll
economists.
just
We're
be
not
real with you.
talking- dude,
I don't
quit
believe you when you
trying
say
to-
you're a
we're trying to
non-interventionist.
take
Because a
this into this
non-interventionist
bullshit
would
range.
not be okay with this massive amounts, a nuclear bomb of intervention. We're not just talking about one tariff here, one tariff there. We're not just talking about a little bit of injection in the economy. We're talking about the biggest tariff in the last 100 years.
Yeah, fuck yes. Let's get it.
Japan tariffs us at an
Yeah,
average
number
of
one.
1.64%.
Burn the
Like, that's
system down.
that's
Make
nothing.
me so mad that they never send us another plastic pile of dog shit. I would love that. Fuck yes.
Hold on.
wait,
We're
wait,
talking-
wait,
want
so
to
wait, would you be in
pass
favor?
budget?
You would wait,
That's
would you be in favor of what Kevin Lear? So I don't think you're saying this like a across the board blanket tariff. You sound like you want more targeted tariffs, Grid. Like to say they're bucking us with 120% on a car, then we would hit them with something bad. Would you be in favor of what Kevin Leary has proposed with 400% tariffs to China and reduce some other places? Would you like something like that, Grid?
I mean, I see the point. I mean, I've actually heard a half of his deal, so I'm not super familiar with it, but I'm sure that I would agree with most of what he says.
Okay.
Okay. Can I just ask this? Who thinks we're
Yeah.
winning the trade war with China right now? Raise your hand.
Winning?
Yes.
Right here. Absolutely 100%
Absolutely.
across the board.
Holy
crazy?
shit! You guys are crazy.
Take a look at the
I
fucking
think
stock
you're
market.
crazy
dude.
when we're getting
They
across
are
from
not
you.
They took
winning
a
this
much
trade.
bigger
Look at
dip than we did.
that.
Yes.
Yeah, they're like
Oh,
at
no,
zero.
no,
Even
they
the
took a
Chinese,
20%.
even the Chinese people are coming out said they're like today that they're like borderline at zero, depending on.
They're
what
having
source you're looking at.
protests in the streets right now against Xi Jinping.
I don't think you
Oh,
understand.
Wick!
China
You didn't know
can.
that?
Hold on. I don't think you
Oh,
understand.
man.
Do you think? Hold on. Do you think protests in
Yes.
China are going to do shit?
No, but the fact that they can get
Okay.
power, they can
China
You don't
is a
understand
different
what a
type
Hold
of-
on,
Hold on.
They can
Would
disappear for doing.
Yeah, hold on.
Yeah,
I think
it's
there's an
subject to
interesting. That's hold on.
incentives,
Let
and
me
it's
get.
subject to if you
Okay,
guys
I
let
wanna
me
jump
finish.
in here.
They're subject to different
I'm gonna
pressures,
say
and they are able to withstand pain far greater than our system of government is. We will
No, they're not.
break
Well, hold on.
before they
That
do.
is
So hold
Crazy.
on. Before I go, let me ask.
They have
Let me ask you a
higher,
question.
like,
Do you
savings.
do you think that if you so we all agree if everybody you protest in China, that's not going to change shit in Chinese government. They're just going to disappear you or at best for a lot of those cases, right? So wouldn't that be indicative that if they're out there protesting in mass, things are that bad that they're willing to risk being disappeared and like sent somewhere? Like, wouldn't that be indicative of that to an extent?
They have a lot of different types of protests and styles of protests. If you're protesting like Hong Kong, yes, that's a disappear you protest. But when we're talking about like a lot of times in China, they
Protesting
have
against the government, period, gets you
a
disappeared.
loud
Global
protest.
press
It's
stuff.
just different. It's just different. They're not. Look, they're not protesting against the government
Dude,
of China. At
have
least
you been to
I
China?
understand. No, but I studied Mandarin
I'm
Chinese,
married to a
and I
Chinese
was
woman. So you
in
need
the
to go
Defense
ask her.
Language Institute, where I was a cryptolinguist for the military, where my target language was Mandarin Chinese, and so I know a little bit about how their government works. Not an expert by any means, but I think I know more than the layman does. Let's say that.
Could you
I
order
don't think
Chinese
it's
A
food
lot
in
of
the
the
language?
I think you're shrouded by a sense of idiocy.
Of course they could. Go ahead.
Can you order
a
Chinese
lot of
food
a lot of
here in that language? Do you do that?
Not well. This was 10 years ago. I've lost a lot of my language capabilities.
Oh,
unfortunately.
that's not fun.
Mm.
It sucks.
It's a pretty big.
Listen, it seems like it's a lot harder for for the U.S. to remove China from its supply chains than it is for China to move the U.S. from its
And
supply
China's
chain.
already making deals with the EU. They're already getting closer to Japan. They're already getting closer to South
You're
Korea.
wrong.
What we're
Yes,
doing,
no,
what
I
America's
know.
doing is isolating
China, a
ourselves.
lot of things China
Martial
imports
Isolating
are
ourselves.
soybeans, which they can pretty easily
You are
buy from
so
Brazil.
wrong. This is propaganda, dude. You do not understand.
I'm just telling you
Literally,
facts.
the government's
Just
about
telling
to
you.
invoke martial law and start killing their citizens, and you don't seem to understand the
Wait,
mass
Which
effect
Chinese
that is
citizen has
going
been
on.
killed due to these tariffs?
They're
I'm
having
sorry?
protests in their streets.
To the
Those people
protests on
are-
these tariffs.
They will kill
How
the
many
protesters
Chinese
on the
citizens have been
They're going
killed?
to kill
None
the
yet. We don't
factory
know.
worker who literally stands up and says, "I want to work, man," and you got to work with the U.S. You got to, and they're going to kill that guy. It's not like here, Wick. They don't have leftists there like you.
Okay,
don't.
so real quick,
just
hold on,
have-
hold on.
No, they
Let
have.
me jump in
They
here.
have
It seems like China's
PRC
been the one.
Let me
dick suckers
jump
like
in.
you.
Let me jump in real quick and just
Go ahead.
kind of give you a comparison of
Go
the
ahead,
economy. So I'm pretty sure about 20% of the money made worldwide in every country added together comes from the U.S. We're significant, like 4% of the world's population, 20% of the income. If you look at global trade, one of every $3 spent on the world stage is the United States dollar being spent. Even if you add the EU and China together, they still don't beat us. So the fact that we're that much of a demand to do business with puts us extremely higher in a point of leverage. And what you see with countries like Vietnam, they're being incentivized to not only buy more U.S. goods, same with the EU, buy more U.S. goods, and start tariffing China. I do not think that after Ukraine fucked the EU over by giving them all these energy imports and then invading a country they were in negotiations with to bring into the EU. I do not think they're going to turn around and say, well, let's just start buying shit from China now, who's doing the same shit with Taiwan and funding Russia to go into the EU. So I think we're seeing on a larger scale, we're going to see Trump having Canada, Mexico, and the EU all put up tariffs against the Chinese, and we're going to see a moving away from their economy in the next decade.
I mean, first
Okay,
of
I
all, we
think
brought
that-
this up earlier. The U.S. is literally at risk of losing our world reserve currency status because people don't want our dollars anymore. They are so uncertain about what the fuck is happening.
People
You're
are
shaking your head,
divesting
but, like,
from America.
And
at
yet,
rates we've not
non-con,
seen.
they're all coming to the table to make the deal with us. You can talk.
Okay, can
all
you
the
give us
time.
a list of
what I'm
countries that
saying.
have come to the
These
table?
investors are not the people selling
Live in
bonds are not the
reality.
ones.
We have about 30 countries named by now, yes. I can give you a
Okay,
large
can you
list.
send me that and
Yeah,
the deals that have been
Talking
made?
about mostly
No
private
deals have been
investors who are
finalized yet.
selling
They've
No
been
deals
over
have been
They're
made
negotiated.
yet.
not private
Okay,
investors,
okay.
non-con. They're
about-
governments.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't
Government.
fucking
Yeah, I understand.
negotiate with
Because I'm not talking
75
about
countries
governments. I'm primarily
overnight.
talking about the private investors who are concerned about the U.S. economy and therefore are choosing to divest from it, and that's good. That's hurting our currency. People are gonna try. People are currently shifting away from using our currency. And the U.S. is a bigger economic power than China, and we probably engage in more trade overall. I don't disagree with that. But look, like I said, a lot of goods that we rely on from China are just super hard to remove from our supply chain because we rely on them from
I don't
electronics
believe
that
that's
really can
true at
only be
all.
made there. And China can
The
be pretty
only
high. The
thing that
soybeans
China
they
has right
from-
now on us
from
is
Brazil.
the rare earth
And look,
metals.
if China was doing so poorly, I don't think they would be doing things like they are, like the export tax on rare earth minerals. They are literally basically forcing us to implement a tariff on them by putting an export tax on certain goods going to the U.S. if they know we won't do super well without. And look, Trump has said that he wants China to call him, right? And China's the one not calling him. So I don't think they're too concerned over losing any potential trade war. And I do think a lot of our
you're really
allies
wrong on that
are
one.
not going
China
to
reached out to the
anymore
administration
to
4
sign
days
any
ago.
deal because we just blew up the last deal we had. I'm pretty we had a trade surplus with Australia, and we had an agreement with Australia. We had an agreement with a lot of countries through the GATT agreements, where we had low tariffs because of the GATT agreements. and Trump blew all those up. I don't know why they
If
would
only
think
there
we
was
have
like a
credibility.
partnership of non-Chinese Pacific nations that we could join, maybe a trans-Pacific partnership or something that we could join. What happened? Like, why can't we put something like that together? I don't
There's
know.
that
Why would we
TPP.
want to put
No.
something
Well,
like
there were-
that together?
In 2016, there were two candidates that were against it. One of them negotiated, and then she turned around and denounced it. So who was going to usher that in if both candidates were
Who
against it?
withdrew us from the Trans-Pacific Partnership?
Oh, either
Who was it?
president that won in
Who
2016.
was it?
Because both of them were
Can
running
you
at
name them? Who was it that
They were
actually
both
took us
bad,
out?
but like it's still Trump being bad.
So,
I don't think it's bad. I think
It was Trump, gang. Trump removed
Yeah.
us from the Trans-Pacific
I've heard
Partnership.
anyone
Just
that says-
FYI.
No, I
don't know
get
that.
where you're going, but I don't have a problem with that. Again, not a globalist.
You keep
It's
using the
fine, I
word
don't know.
globalist,
You
and
keep-
I'm not sure what you mean by the word globalist.
Jew.
But this might be a different conversation depending on what you mean by globalist.
no,
I don't
Tyler.
know. You
No,
said
no.
earlier you want like as much free trade as possible, right? You just want it to be fair or whatever. Like that to
Sorry.
me implies globalist or whatever.
Yeah, free
Couldn't
trade is
help myself.
globalist, baby.
I'm sorry. Are you asking me a question? Or you?
Yeah,
Yes,
what's the
I'm asking.
definition
What
of
do you mean by
globalist?
globalist?
What do you
It's
call
hard
it?
to tell when you're just rumbling. Anyway, yeah. So
Can you guys not hear me? Is
globalist.
this not on? Hello?
To me, globalist means that you want to participate in this economy as we're the big kid on the block. We're the police of the world. We're the whatever you want to call it, and we don't need to be that guy. I would actually prefer if we no longer provided security on the high seas for all nations and let them provide their own. I would prefer that we do not provide security for any other country except the United States, including South Korea, including Germany, and including, well, basically, I mean, Tyler and I had this whole discussion at one point. So yeah, I'm not a globalist in that metric. Also, I believe that sure, we can trade with other countries, but that trade needs to be private, not government interference. No government interference.
Well, hold on, Grid. Let me ask you a question. Maybe I'm confused because I mean I'm definitely not an isolationist. But
I know you're not.
I'm a little confused
I know
about
you're not.
how
I'm not an isolationist.
Let's
I'm
just
a non-intervention.
let's just say, I don't know, there's a country, specifically a Chinese country, that is building atolls outside in like military bases in the the Pacific Ocean, and they're deciding that we're no longer going to let the U.S. trade with the Philippines or Taiwan, and we're going to let any ships in the areas we control. Now, do you want us to go in there and force our way in and be able to trade with those countries? Because the Philippines, it's in the Philippines territorial waters. They should be able to take out China, right, by your own metric. Is that what you're kind of saying, or should we be able to enforce our American interests with using our?
I think that I go back to the earliest days of the country. There was a situation, you may have heard of it, the Barbary Pirates.
Yes. Marine Corps fight song and all. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what we did there?
Yeah.
We killed all those motherfuckers. And that's what happens. But did we become the police of the world at that point? Did we become the police of the world at that point? Did we provide security for other nations on the high seas? It can be argued that we made it easier for the East India Trading Company and the British, to trade. But
the answer is no, Greg, because historically, guess who was doing that then? Because we were at war, we were not friendly with the UK or the Britain.
We weren't actually friendly with the UK. You're right.
Yeah, and obviously, and so they're the ones who were providing the freedom of trade. And
let me ask you.
Go ahead.
We have about $2 trillion a year that runs through the Taiwan Strait. Okay, $2 trillion of trade. A lot of that goes to us. If China says, "Nah, we're gonna shut that shit down," should we go in and open it up?
Is it their territorial waters?
Or if the Houthis are attacking ships in the Middle East?
I mean, you can answer this question simply, Wick. I mean, I don't think you're that dense.
I'm
Maybe
asking
wrong.
you what you think we should do.
Is it their territorial waters?
It's the Taiwan Strait.
Okay, then no. And if we want, and if we need to, we can send warships along with our cruise ships or passenger ships or trade ships or whatever, and blow them out of the water.
So yes.
You want to
you-
intervene in that situation. Got it.
Well, that's not intervention. That's protection.
You're a
Yeah,
last
that's
case
an
scenario interventionist.
Intervention.
Well, hold on. If I'm walking down the street and someone tries to rob me,
I will
and
intervene
the
and stop
security
them.
guard I've hired, and the security guard I've hired beats their
Intervenes and
ass.
stops them.
That's not
Your government issued security guard, all right?
Well,
No, I have
he's
no
rich enough. He'll
government
just
issued
pay for
security
it. You
guard.
know.
I'll
All
give
right.
money to Israel.
All right.
to defend
Anyway, moving on. Okay. So yeah, I mean, not a fan of.
Yeah.
So you're not a fan of us going in there and protecting our trade between countries once it reaches their territorial waters. So you would just say that if the Philippines can't defend it, then I guess we don't trade
Well, I
with the
would say
Philippines
that
no more.
if Philippine boats can't get out of Philippine waters, then that's our problem, and they can.
What
either
about our
deal with
boats
it-
in and out of the Philippines waters?
Well, our boats are our boats. You don't touch our boats.
Okay,
You don't touch our boats.
not the boats, bro.
What if an American
I was
company
waiting
wants
for
the
him to say it so that I could
Who's
do
gonna
that.
carry
Hold
the
on, what if
boats
an American
and the
waiting for
logs?
that.
What if an American company says, "Hey, we have a deal with the Philippines, okay, where they're going to ship us using their boats. We've agreed to
Mhm.
use their supply chain. They're using Philippine boats to send us our goods, right? It's a
Mhm.
huge company, and a lot of companies get whatever resource from the Philippines. And then China
Uh-huh.
says, we're going to stop those
Bananas.
Philippine boats from going
Uh-huh.
outside, and we're going to
Is
shut
that
them
private
down.
industry?
Yes, it's a private industry.
Okay, then why did they contract for that?
Because for whatever reason it was cheaper to get the parts or the supplies or whatever they're buying from the Philippines, whatever they want. Maybe it's mail order brides. I don't know, right? Whatever they're buying for the Philippines, okay?
Racist.
The company wants it, they're ordering it, right? And the Philippines are shipping them in, okay? China comes
Please
in and
stop it.
stops
Let me just
that from
stop you.
happening.
No,
Should
Wick.
the American
No, Wick.
government free their ships?
I don't believe that our government owes you security in a foreign country, Wick.
Let me take
I
a
think
crack at
they
does not-
do.
Okay.
I
Well,
think
well,
that if an
well,
American
well,
citizen is
does
abducted
not
and accosted by a
provide
foreign government,
you
that we should
or
come
your
in with
goods
guns,
security
bombs,
in a
planes,
foreign
and
country,
rescue
Wick.
our American
Are you
citizens.
Oh,
fucking
really?
Let me
stupid?
take,
So
let
I
me
know
take a
that-
crack at that.
Oh yeah, so that's good. We should take out Hamas and get our American guy back. I
yeah.
agree. I agree. I know.
Yes.
I know Wick was like that. All right. I'm going to switch topics now to a different economic topic. Yeah, because this is going down a foreign policy rabbit hole, which is related to this to some degree. But speaking of foreign policy, Trump has implemented the new gold card, $5 million. He's claiming they made $5 billion off of it so far. Are we fans of this system of economic influx? The logic being these are rich people that are going to invest in the U.S. economy now that they're here. Are we fans
Are we
of this
talking about
policy?
the visas that he's
How much
selling?
is
Yeah, the
that?
$5 million.
A million.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay,
Gold
if he
card.
wants
So he
to do that,
raised the
I don't
price.
think-
Yeah,
Yeah,
He raised the price.
I don't
Yeah,
believe
we
he
do have a
actually raised
passport.
so much. I'm pretty sure.
I don't think we
that
should
part is
have
not
people in
true,
this
but-
country.
You don't think we should have people in the country?
At all.
no people. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Like, it's probably a good idea. It's probably a good idea generally
He's
to
probably
have,
not wrong.
you know,
I mean, I
visas.
don't actually have an argument against that.
Yeah, let's go down the nihilist route. All right.
Was
Okay, sorry, that was just a dumb comment. You were
Okay,
actually going on something.
Go
else.
ahead. Yeah, go ahead, Nafon. Sorry. Yeah, he's got.
Yeah, I mean,
something.
it's probably a good idea to, you know, to sell some amount of visas every year to investors who will, you know, come in and invest and bring jobs and make their country better and whatever. But I mean, I don't know. My understanding is we already had a program to do that, and I think
We did.
I'm almost certain Trump is lying about the $5 billion number. Because I believe I think it's like if you invest $500,000 or create like 1,000 jobs or something, you can apply for like a visa in the U.S. I'm pretty sure. I think that's what it was.
It is correct.
So right now, if you want to get a passport, I don't know how much you guys internationally travel, but if you want to get a passport, you can actually pay extra to get it. Get the process accelerated. This is basically that to another.
You can get it
degree.
24 hours now.
Yeah,
This is
no,
that-
it's
that's
great.
what it is.
Big
one of
fan.
so if you want to immigrate here from another country, especially like China or somewhere like, somewhere we're not like super friendly with, there's a couple of different ways to do that. And one of them, as Namfon has said, is through investment. And I believe that was set at 500 grand. and you have to. I mean, you have to do the background checks and all that. I mean, it's not like you just you write a check and you walk in. I mean, you still have to be vetted, but that is one of the. But people who um, couldn't get citizenship from a country like China or like I don't know wherever, but China is the one country I know that does it the most, and Canada did the same thing. Except Canada, it was just $500,000 invested. I think the U.S. and I'd have to read the code again, but I think the U.S. it had to be invested in a business and you had to create jobs. And in Canada, for example,
Well,
it just had to be 500 grand. And so there were people buying houses. They would just go in and say, "We'll give you $500,000 for this house."
well, I guess
Even
the
if it was
reason
only
the
worth
aggressive
200
reason I'm
grand.
bringing this up with the economy is right. There seems to be
Mhm.
some dissent within at least MAGA between those in like Elon Musk's camp who are like let's continue brain draining other countries and bringing people in here, and people on the further right who are like we don't want anybody here. These are American jobs. I mean, I would say this falls in the brain drain from other countries category. If you're taking people that are rich enough to invest and bring them in here, I mean, does this sound like a sound economic strategy, or is it Trump? Like, is Trump breaking from what his base is? Do we like it? What do you
This
thought?
sounds like a gimmick, honestly, and I have no strong thoughts. If he wants to do this gimmick, okay.
Yeah, I
Oh,
mean, I think Trump's actual proposal here is a gimmick, which is right. But I do think the general idea, which again we kind of already do, of like selling visas if you invest here, is a good strategy. And I do think that we should let in more high skilled people. And I mean more low skilled people as well. But I basically think high skilled people should have like an uncapped
well,
amount of entry that we let in.
so y'all have been arguing from a globalist standpoint for a lot of this, right? Like going forward, I guess we're going to change it a little bit more because it doesn't seem like this is just kind of circling the drain. I think.
When I say globalist, can I define what I mean just real
Sure,
quick?
go
I'll
ahead,
be very quick.
Yeah,
Right. When I
absolutely.
say globalist, I don't mean world police, right? I mean people who protect our interests overseas. And we do have interests overseas. American companies want to invest in foreign businesses for a variety of reasons and get foreign resources for a variety of reasons. And if an American investment firm wants to do that and we have interests there, I think that the American military should protect our interests. And I
That's
think that it should
insane.
So
protect foreign. I think it
That's
should protect
literally
our
insane.
interests in foreign places as well, right?
Yeah, I
So
mean,
when we
literally,
have trade ships that are
Okay,
sailing the
cool.
seven seas, I think it's
So when
perfectly
the
reasonable
Chinese
and
soldiers arrive to
valid.
protect Chinese interests in America, you're going to be cool with that?
When Chinese interests and American interests come into conflict, which interests do you want to win out?
Well, I would prefer there
The
not to
American
be
interest,
any
perhaps?
Chinese things here in the United States. See, that's my thing, right? Like I don't believe that. I don't
well,
believe in that. You believe in that. You think that's cool. You think,
What if
and
they
I
produce
don't
the best
believe
products?
I don't believe that Americans in
I think
a
Americans should
foreign
have the choice
country need
who
to
to
be
buy from.
defended by American troops invading that country. You dumb
So,
fuck.
so actually, hold on. Thorne actually kind of touched on something just now with that comment, and that I really want to go to. Right? He says, "What if they make the best products?" So there's a lot of people that talk. Right? If you see in the U.S., I know we were not going to debate IP. We're not doing that, whether or not it's good or bad. But China has a different set of rules regarding IP than what we do. Right? Once you reach like $5 million, like per year rate capital, like gains or whatever, like in your product sales, China will just blatantly rip that off and just start making cheaper copies, and there's nothing the U.S. can do. What do we suggest when like we have powers that seem to be playing by a different set of rules? Because it doesn't seem like y'all are a fan of tariffs on the left, and even some of us here on the right. What do we do in situations like this, or like in the EU, where like it took Trump his first term, he increased it by 10,000 tons on beef, but like they have all these extra restrictions, like they just slapped us with poultry restrictions. Well, what do we do with like groups that seem like they're willing to protect their people, but they won't like help us, right? Like where it's like they're looking out for
Sure.
them. Like what do we do in these situations if not tariffs?
Well, there's a wealth of options, and obviously it's context dependent. Look, there are certain situations where tariffs are the right answer, right? There are certain situations where tariffs are the thing that we should do. However, the way that this administration is utilizing tariffs makes it clear that they don't know what they're doing. They're incompetent at this. They are incompetent at the economic global trade, and what they're trying to do simply is not working. The reason he backed off the tariffs initially is because he saw what was happening to the dollar and to the 10-year treasury bond yields and how they were spiking and how that was absolutely not in the interest. And Trump said this was the reason that he backed off in his speech the very next day.
Not
A lot of
exactly.
people tried to post hoc rationalize this.
Said he was
That's what
watching
Trump
the
Not
bond
exactly
market.
what he said.
Not
It
exactly
is,
what he
it
said.
is what he
Watching the
said.
bond market. He said he was
He-
watching the bond market. and
He did not
getting a
say
little
he-
yippee.
He said people were getting yippy because of the bond market, and he canceled it because of their
As
them.
I said,
But he
I
also
just-
said 75 nations came to him, and it takes time to make those deals as well in the same speech. So there were more than one reason.
Yeah, they did ask for more time. They wanted more time. to Make
I'm
deals.
just repeating why the reason that Trump gave. But
But
regardless,
you only repeated
to answer
half
your
of it,
question-
Hold on,
Wick.
just
Come
real
on,
quick,
don't be
like
a
it-
dick.
to answer your
Be a
question,
dick,
right?
man. Come
to
on.
answer Gibbs' question of what should we do, we have a whole host of options because I do want to bring manufacturing jobs back to the U.S. I think that's a good idea, right? Subsidies are a very good option, right? And there are others, and I'm sure Namfon could elaborate on them. But this idea that we only have one tool in our box is just not true. But yeah, that's what I have to say.
What
said that.
are they? I'm waiting to hear.
Subsidies
So,
are one.
One, I
right?
think the first thing to
Subsidies-
mention is obviously if
Okay.
you believe tariffs are generally like economically beneficial or at least not like super economically harmful. Well, in any case where you see an unfair trading practice, you're going to say, well, obviously we should do a tariff here because it hurts them and also doesn't hurt us
It's
especially
just a
bad. But
tool in the
you're-
toolbox,
you have-
Namfon. You know that.
so
Come on.
if you have sort of Avion tariffs where they are economically harmful, you're going to be a lot more hesitant as to when an unfair trading practice justifies the use of tariffs. And again, like we do have other tools like the WTO, does have mechanisms by which you can try to get other countries to change their trading policies. Now, to an extent, China doesn't fully listen to them, but also, I mean, it's not like
Well,
the
so
US
what do you? Well,
doesn't
hold on. What do
engage
you?
in
What do you
unfair
do,
trading
Non-Fon?
practices.
What do you do
Like
in
we
that situation?
subsidize.
Like, so
we-
China's
we
a massive
subsidize
power,
our-
right? Like, what
What's
do
the
you?
next step?
Well, hold on. Yeah. So, like, hold on. Like, okay, let's just use that scenario, right? You said that you just admitted they don't follow through, right? With everything, right? And so, like, explain to me. Like, I get your argument for like where these countries that will play ball, we should do the X, Y, Z, right? But so explain to me what our prescription is to do and like fight an adversarial power that has so much economic ability all over the world. Like, if what is our options then if they're not going to play by the rules?
What would you say? What do you think Mexico should do? Because we have free trade with Mexico and we subsidize our farmers, and our farmers are able to outcompete all the Mexican farmers. And we're obviously a global economic.
Well, I'll
hegemony.
tell you what I would say is tough titties, because always my theory is what's best for Papa. So, like, yeah, that's what I'm asking. How do we? What's best for Papa? China, whenever they're cheating. That's
Tell
the world
Mexico,
rules. What do you-
sorry, we're trying to compete with
like,
Mexico.
now-
we're trying
now-
to compete with China.
Now, if I was a Mexican farmer, non-fawn, I'd be like, well, Mexico, y'all need to do something about this. And so I guess I'm asking you, what would you tell the Mexican farmers is your plan?
So actually,
I mean, again, so it would depend on basically how harmful I believe the unfair trading practice is, because there are, the U.S. consumer and U.S. companies do benefit from the cheaper prices because China subsidizes their products, right? Obviously, U.S. producers are hurt, but U.S. consumers probably win out more than producers lose. I like unfair trading practices. If we agree there is a problem, I'm going to sound like a libertarian. Tyler,
Sure.
you're going to love this. Government intervention is not always, the correct solution to the problem, and it can end up
Never the
making
solution.
things
trickle
worse.
down, fun, baby.
Well, if you believe it's not, this is absolutely not trickle down. But look, I mean, I just
never the
don't.
solution, but then you're like, tariffs are good, actually.
Hold on, I want to hear non-fawn
I
finish
said
this
tariffs
thought.
are the option at this
somebody-
moment.
somebody get-
because we've gotten ourselves.
Somebody get
Fine.
ready to
inside
click.
the net.
Somebody get ready to click Fabian Fawn. I'm ready for it. Go ahead.
I'm
finish out.
ready.
Well, I mean, no, I said the libertarians will say this all the time. Like, even if there is a problem, it doesn't always mean like government intervention is the best solution to that problem. It can end up making things worse. And there are probably plenty of cases where tariffing a country because we believe they're engaging in unfair trading practices would actually make things worse. And like Wick is right, if we have a problem with China subsidizing their solar panels, well, why don't we just subsidize our solar panels, right? And like Biden did this, and we have evidence that solar panel subsidies like generally increase the production of solar panels. And it seems like we also have evidence that tariffs a lot of times make the companies that they're trying to protect very inefficient and like reliant on this protection from the government. We have evidence that tariffs reduce labor productivity sometimes, at least within the industry that they are placed in, and subsidies don't tend to have the same effects, it seems like.
And also tariffs lead to lack of innovation in the home market too. That's like a really big thing. Like, you saw that especially with like the EVs. So sorry, that's just like my jump in bit.
Real quick, non-fun
Don't
kind
be
of just
sorry,
debunked
sick, I'm
Wick's
sorry,
point
sick.
right there.
Yeah,
In a sense.
Get
Well,
rid of
non-fun,
that American.
non-fun. You just debunked Wick's point of subsidies, because as soon as we put subsidies on China to match their unfair practices, we are now using.
Do you know
unfair
what
practices.
subsidies are?
Yes, we're now
We
using
already
unfair.
use
Why
unfair
would
Hold
we
on,
put
let me get
subsidies
my
on
whole
China?
sentence out. You just said the best way. Gibbs asked you, how would you, if China's ignoring our trade policies and ignoring what we're telling them, how would you work on decoupling from China? The only example you said was subsidies.
You know what subsidies are?
Yes,
You
I'm
don't
aware
put
what
them on
subsidies are.
China.
I'm
What you do
understand.
is you
I get this.
subsidize. That's what you just said.
I
What
said
you
if
do,
we put subsidies on U.S. jobs, U.S.
That's not what you
firms to compete with China because of China is what I said. Because of China, if we put subsidies on U.S. firms, we are now undercutting all of our trade practices with every other country around us. Because now, as Nanfan said, we're subsidizing our farmers, so Mexican farmers can't compete with us on the world stage. So instead of actually doing something about it, we're allowing China to continue their unfair practices, making our practices more unfair as well to meet them, and then undercutting trade with everybody else. This leading to the current problem we actually already have. So do you have another solution, maybe?
Well, what do you?
Well, hold on. Before we go any further,
Before we get into that,
before we go any further, hold on,
that,
stop. Before we go any further, a subsidy, as defined by Oxford Language Dictionary, is a sum of money granted by the government or a public body to assist an industry or business so that the price for commodity or service remain low or competitive. All right, go ahead. Fight.
Yeah, so generally also,
So-
what you see with subsidies, the cheapest way to get a subsidy out in the U.S. is you find the biggest, most profitable country with the lowest company with the lowest profit margin. So we're giving these subsidies to massive companies like Coca-Cola, who are using it to make their products cheaper that are unhealthy. And then what you do is piss off leftists because they're wondering why our government's giving billions of dollars in subsidies to these massive billion-dollar companies. So
Not
really,
a leftist.
I mean,
I don't
there
care.
there are plenty
say you are,
of
but-
subsidies. There are plenty of subsidies
I
we give the
understand.
farmers that I don't like, especially like on corn. I don't think those are justifiable
Oh, yeah.
subsidies for farmers most of the time.
I was
But like, what would a
I
tariff
was
do in the
just
case
subsidized
of
by
unfair
my
trade
chat
practices?
for
Like,
100,000
China is not going to
dong,
stop
Vietnamese
subsidizing
dong,
their solar
a lot of
panels.
dong.
I just want to know.
China is not going to stop subsidizing their solar panels.
You're
if we
right.
tariff their solar panels, they might
They're
even
not.
tariff them more subsidize them more to negate the effect of the tariff.
You're
So
right.
like, you're not stopping China from engaging in unfair trading practices.
You're right. They're going to
If
drain
your
their
goal-
people dry
If your
in order to
goal,
subsidize, over-subsidize.
if your goal is to increase local, in other words, American manufacturing, I think subsidizing those things is a better solution than tariffing from other countries. And yes, there
Why do you hate
are
the U.S. taxpayers?
negative, if I may, there are negative repercussions like ripple effects for some subsidies. But if our goal, and I think it should be, this is where I would agree perhaps with the other side, is that we have a manufacturing deficit in America, and we do need to turn that around, especially when it comes to things like boat manufacturing, ship manufacturing, things like that, because we are coming into a much more hostile world. I think that Trump's alienating our allies and withdrawing from the world stage is going to increase the chance of conflict with a global power in the next 10 years. And we do need to really hop on board and get a large investment into American manufacturing, American jobs, American steel production, American ship production, American weapons production, and things like that. And subsidies allow us to do so in a much more clear and a much more specific way, targeted way than tariffs would. That's my.
Why not have
that's why
tax
I'm
breaks instead?
asking for subsidies.
Why not
Tax-
do tax breaks instead?
Tax breaks are another thing that we can do.
They-
Yes.
I mean, that
It's another
is
tool.
essentially a type of subsidy, like the
Yes.
Chips and Science
I mean,
Act,
but
like
no,
offer tax credits for companies who-
no. If you give someone a subsidy, you are taking money from taxpayers and giving it to a company. If you simply
Yeah,
don't
so,
collect as much
that's-
tax, what you're
so
doing
what do you
is you're
think a tax
allowing
credit
that
is? A
company
tax credit-
to pay more people. Just for example, I paid $250,000 in taxes last year. I could have hired 4 people with that money. The government does not spend my money anywhere nearly as well as I do, obviously, because I make money and the government loses money. And so therefore, by everyone's rationalization here today, you should all be giving me your fucking money and I should be making it work for you.
You
Look,
would
like,
invest
and
in things
he's
that I
right,
feel are
like
wise.
accounting, whether the government reduces the amount of taxes you pay by $1,000 or simply gives you $1,000 but doesn't reduce the amount of taxes you pay, like that's the same thing in effect. Obviously, like I'm pretty sure if you asked ChatGPT this or Grok this, they will consider, tax credits a form of subsidy. I'm pretty sure that's a reasonable thing.
Let me ask. Hold on.
Like,
Let me ask
you know,
this. Let me ask this, Grid. You said you don't like taxes, right? I mean, I also fucking hate taxes. Many people would argue that a tariff is equivalent to a tax. Do you agree with that, or do you
well,
don't?
it is
This,
by
I
definition a
do,
tax.
and it annoys the fuck out of me that we get taxed by every damn country on our goods, and we don't tax theirs.
okay, fair
Grid,
enough.
you acknowledge, Grid, please. How much do you think Japan's average tariff rate on us is, please?
I believe we were somewhere around 8% before all this started. Average.
No, we were at like 1.64%. How much do you think it is in Korea?
Hold on. But you're looking across all of the products. What was the
That's actually
tariff
an
rate
interesting point.
on
Yeah,
American
that's why
cars
I'm looking
going
at the
into?
average tariff rate.
Hold on.
Well, hold on. Yeah, no. Why
What
would
was
you do?
the-
Why?
what was
Hold
the
on.
tax
You
rate on American cars going into Japan?
Why I understand it could be
American
the case that they
product,
tariff.
an actual American product.
Well, yeah,
I don't give a shit about lipstick. I care about
What do
things
you
that
think
actually.
we
Okay,
tariff?
so
hold on. That's
you know,
actually.
just
But
Cheese
hold on.
means
That's
nothing
a.
to you.
That's a,
Nothing
that's
at
a
all.
hold on. That's a good point that Grid's making, and I've seen this argued a lot on a lot of
It's
Hold
not.
on. Wait. Well, okay. Well, you
Answer
can.
the
I'll
question.
let you rebut it because I think I think Grid's actually making touches on something. Is that say like cars right in Japan? Yeah, if they're across the board, it's what'd you say 1.8%? Yeah, that's low. I agree. But if it's cars, which is something that specifically we're trying to compete in that market, and they have an 80 to 120% tariff, yeah, that's a lot different than if they have a 1 point like a negative tariff. I don't know. There's probably not. I don't think there's a way to do a negative tariff. But if there was a negative tariff on fucking rice, because they don't need American rice, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just picking something here. You see what I'm saying? Like, and that's gonna offset it, right?
Okay.
0% tariff.
Well, yeah, but this
So
is
let me tell you why this is retarded.
Sure, go ahead.
And
Tell me
sorry
why.
for using the hard R here, but
It's all right.
I
I'll
think it's
allow it.
warranted. If Trump had made a tariff on cars specifically, we might have a
did.
conversation. We could
did.
have something to
He
talk
did.
about, but that's
He
not
did.
what Trump
He
did.
fucking did, Wick.
Trump
Shut
put
the fuck
a
up. This shows you you don't know what
blanket
you're talking about.
tariff
Stop.
on all
I'm
these
going to talk.
countries.
I
Grid,
don't
there's a
want you to talk
10% tariff
anymore
on Japan
until
right
you
now, is
understand
there
what you're
not?
talking about. Did he
5 different
freeze?
policies. That was the first one.
Did he freeze or did he just like?
No, he's waiting for you to say what you were going to say because you came in very hot.
No, Wick, you're fucking wrong. He literally said that if you buy an American car, you don't pay taxes on it. If you buy a car made in a foreign country, you pay taxes on it.
If I want to buy a manga from Japan, is there a tariff on that right now?
Manga?
I believe
Yeah.
there's a
There is
10%
a
I
tariff.
believe there
on
are
it, but
taxes on that.
there might be some
If I
exemptions.
wanted to buy rice from Japan right now, is there a tariff on that? There is. Okay, so that's what I'm talking about. It's the blanket tariffs. So don't try to get me in a gotcha when you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, sir.
I'm not trying to get you, but you literally said if he put it on cars specifically,
just
and
cars.
he did. He made a specific tax on cars
No,
higher than everything else.
2 weeks prior to
that's
any
not
other
only
tariffs.
to that's not a
Yeah, also,
reciprocal
yeah, it
tariff.
was
though.
2 weeks
The
prior.
auto
I'm
part tariff is
leaving that out.
it's
Thank
not reciprocal to other countries. The auto parts tariff is just 25% on all auto parts imported to the country.
It's not. We're not talking about auto
that's not a
parts. We're talking
reciprocal-
about actual cars.
That's what Trump did. Trump has a tariff on all auto parts. I'm
Yeah,
assuming that's what you're referring to.
The car.
No,
union.
I'm talking about actually buying a car. You buy a U.S. made car. Trump put in place a policy where if you buy a car made in America, that means a Toyota Tundra truck made in Texas. I think they're made in Texas still. Then you don't pay taxes on it because it supports American workers. But if you buy whatever I don't even know what they fucking still make in Japan, Honda Civics maybe, I don't know. If you buy something that
Honda.
floats, if you buy something that floats across the ocean, you pay taxes on it.
Look, so
That is a targeted tax. That's exactly
I don't believe
what I said.
Number one, I don't believe that tax credit is in place yet. I think Congress actually has to pass it. Number two, you only get that if you itemize your taxes, and the bottom 50% of taxpayers just don't itemize their taxes. I forget if it's literally most of the bottom 50%, but It's only rich people are going to get that tax credit, buddy. But regardless, again, you said that like you're upset about Japan tariffing our cars or whatever. Trump, one, as Wick said, put a 10% tariff on everything in Japan, and two, put auto tariffs on all cars entering the country and car parts entering the country. This isn't like specifically a reciprocal tariff. This is not a reciprocal tariff to Japan's cars.
You understand?
It's a reciprocal tariff across the board.
You understand that he was elected for a universal 10% tariff, plus 60% on
I never
China.
considered that
And he implemented via executive order in January. He did that. And he was elected on doing a 10% across the board tariff. Period.
That's great. That doesn't make it good. Can you provide an argument that that's good?
I didn't say it's good or bad.
So why are you bringing up that he was elected to?
Hold on. If the American people elected the next president to, for example, steal dumbass caps, okay, would that be a good thing? I don't think you would like that.
So hold on.
They would take your caps away. It would be terrible.
That 10% tariff across
we
the
just
board,
have Americans make caps. That's how that works.
That 10% tariff across the board is probably the worst of all the tariffs.
Is it?
Probably unconstitutional, but
it's probably the worst of all the tariffs because Trump is telling other nations drop yours to us for zero. We're going to put up this 10% tariff as a comparative advantage adjuster that's in the long term going to eventually, it's essentially using DEI in the form of tariffs. You guys tariffed us for 30 years and made all these imbalances in our economy. This comparative analysis, comparative adjuster is going to, over time, revert those changes to our economy. That's the idea behind that. It's from Peter Navarro specifically.
Peter Navarro, my favorite.
You mean the guy who quotes Ron Barra, right, all the time?
Okay, I remember that one story.
Comparative advantage.
Retarded.
Bro, I mean, have you ever heard Biden talk? He said he marched with civil rights people. I don't want to hear about.
Comparative advantage is not something to adjust for. Comparative advantage is something to take advantage of. I don't know why the fuck we would have a comparative advantage adjustment. That's the most retarded thing I've heard, man.
Because it's not the snapshot fallacy. When you do something for 30 years in a specific snapshot fallacy. When you do something for 30 years in a specific way, it changes the infrastructure of your country to adapt around that more globalized free trade. What this would do is a small tariff to over time push.
Take a drink for the whataboutism.
Congratulations, you understand, Tyler. You understand gains from specialization.
I'm not arguing. I literally started this. I literally started this by saying it's the weakest tariff and the easiest one to attack and the stupidest one. I'm just telling you why it's.
I understand.
There. That's all.
But you call it a comparative advantage adjustment, which is like
Navarro called it. I know you don't get it, but it's feasible.
We know what Navarro called it. We know why it's laughable, right? Because Navarro's a laughable person. I know more about economics than Navarro.
Who's your preferred economist?
I don't have one, but I know it's not Navarro.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay, so real quick,
I would pick Nonfon over Navarro.
Let me jump in with my point real quick here. So I would say that the largest factor we see for our adversarial nations, and I'm going to keep hammering this point because I think it's the most important and the reason behind this trade war. The biggest thing we see is a sudden burst of money going to these nations. So Russia got a pipeline. Trump put a sanction on it, would not let them have the Nord Stream 2. When Biden came in, one of the negotiations he was having to keep them from going into Ukraine was allowing them to have the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. Their economy spiked almost a 10% growth because of that pipeline. And we saw that be one of the major factors in why they had enough money to have the war. And also another major factor in why we couldn't fully sanction and tariff their energy exports, because it would hurt the EU just as much as it hurt Russia. So the fact that they were coupled together undermined the fight back against Russia. We cannot fully put the boot on Russia's neck right now because they're so coupled to Europe in terms of energy exports. With Iran, we see something similar. Trump releases $10 billion in tariffs. Biden releases the same $10 billion and $6 billion more. I think they got $26 billion in like a year and a half. We can see about a fourth of that going to terrorism against Israel. October 7th happens. We have a 7-front war against Israel from 7 different Israeli-funded or Iranian-funded militia groups in 7 different nations, all coordinating, attacking together, ceasefiring together, and everything when they're not supposed to even be talking. Third example, China. 30 years of quasi-capitalist, quasi-communist rule. Their economy goes through the roof. They have tariffs against us the whole time. We see manufacturing fucking tripping over itself to get over there. About 10 years ago, Xi Jinping comes in. Their economy is booming. They're number 2. They start stealing our IPs. They start expanding their nation and looking at Taiwan, Hong Kong, and other places. They start funding all of our geopolitical rivals.
Didn't China
Hold on,
reduce
real
all
quick,
its tariffs when Xi Jinping came in? That's why their economy boomed. I'm pretty sure. I
I
could be
think
wrong.
they had tariffs on us the whole time.
Yeah, but they
Yeah,
okay. I'm not talking about.
that's obviously not causal for their growth, though. It's probably not
It's
the
a
causal
part of it.
relationship there.
It's
But
a part of the growth
I
of
mean, it's probably, if
manufacturing,
anything, it probably reduces their growth. But look, so I mean, he said a few things. One is gonna, a lot of this stuff, the national security things, like it's gonna come down again to if you believe tariffs are like not that economically harmful or even economically beneficial, you're gonna be a lot more willing to implement them in cases of national security. If you believe that tariffs are economically harmful and not necessarily even preferable to subsidies, you're going to be a lot more hesitant as to when you want to implement tariffs on these countries. And again, you just have, Tyler, respectfully, you have no good evidence that manufacturing was shipped over to China because they have cheaper workers or whatever.
Everyone agrees to this.
Like,
There's an economist on Bill
that's
Maher last week that's arguing your
absolutely
point.
not true. That's absolutely not true. If you were familiar with the literature,
provide you even more evidence in the citation document I already did that you didn't
provide
look
you
at.
with a lot of studies that say productivity increases were the main driver behind the decline in manufacturing employment in the U.S. And again, it seems like
he's going to ask you for those studies later.
Yeah, I don't agree with that. I agree with that completely.
Let non-fun finish, then you can rebut him. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I already had this exact discussion last week.
Yeah, look, it's just like the evidence all points to productivity increases being probably the main driver behind manufacturing, the decline of manufacturing employment in the U.S. And it also seems like, some of it had to do with unions in the Rust Belt kind of, having a lot of demands that companies didn't want to meet, and therefore they reduced the amount of investment. That's probably part of it as well.
What were those demands again?
But,
all right, go ahead.
Look, I don't know, probably
union pay, climate regulation, taxation from the United States government. Those were the demands.
That's great.
The demands that you adhere to
we have very good reasons to believe that just structurally, manufacturing employment is always going to decline with per capita income increases. That's why every single country, as they develop, follows the same inverted U-shaped path where manufacturing employment grows at first, it peaks, and then falls down. Even countries like Germany and South Korea, which have strong manufacturing sectors,
factor. I'm not disputing that factor.
That's not one factor.
Keep going back to this well of the aggregate. We've already had this exact discussion.
Well, look, it just seems like if you keep saying like manufacturing jobs are like being shipped over to China, and I provide evidence.
Manufacturing to other countries. Yes.
Okay.
No, that's not at all.
I'm gonna let non-fun. I'm gonna give you like 1 minute or like 30 seconds here to wrap it up real quick, and then I'm gonna let you rebut it, and then we're gonna open it back up. Go ahead. Don't interrupt him. Let him finish it.
There's just not really good evidence that trade is responsible for the decline in manufacturing share of employment. If that were to align the trend line from 1960 to 1980 manufacturing employment, if you extrapolate that out, it predicts the manufacturing share of employment like almost exactly right now, with no knowledge that we would join NAFTA, that China would join the WTO, and we start trading with all these countries. That indicates it just wasn't trade; it was productivity increases.
All right, rebut him quickly, and then we'll let it open it up.
Yeah, I understand
about like 1 minute max.
He's talking about one single factor. I understand that there's enough evidence to prove that tariffing and raising taxes cause the markets to change. A tariff is a tax. It causes the market to change. If you tariff a country, you see we've seen it with the Trump tariffs on China shifting manufacturing to Vietnam. We've seen with the USMCA renegotiations, China is investing in Mexico to shift their manufacturing there because they want to get around the tariff. It's fucking proven in common sense. And we see the real world actions of it in real time. I don't know how it can be denied.
All right. Rest y'all. Thoughts? Y'all look like y'all have some deep ones.
Man, look, someone's been tariffing my thoughts right now. I have no real opinion on the when it comes to offshoring of manufacturing jobs to China. I will say that we've been losing manufacturing jobs in America since the 70s, and that's largely due to automation. When NAFTA was put into place, it had, I would argue, not any appreciable effect on the loss of manufacturing jobs. Those were mostly offshored, again, due to the wage differences, as well as, again, just we're losing automation jobs simply because our economy was changing and moving to a more service-oriented economy, and has been for decades. So, I mean, look, again, I would agree that we do need to revitalize our manufacturing sector. I'm with you. But I think that the way that Trump is going about doing that is retarded.
All right.
Non-Fon, can I ask you why?
I'm gonna let Grid go, and then Non-Fon respond, and then I'm gonna have another question because we're getting. I want one more thing covered before we move to the last part.
We need to talk about the Federal Reserve as well, but Grid asked.
Okay, yeah, we might as well do that next. Then go ahead, Grid first.
Yeah, why is it that every automotive manufacturer that sells cars here now makes cars here?
I don't know.
What?
Repeat
Sorry?
that. Every car manufacturer that sells cars here now makes cars here.
Yeah.
I
With
don't
the
know, a
exception of
number.
Porsche and Ferrari, of course.
There's a number of factors behind it. I don't see how this is particularly relevant.
You don't
but,
understand the factors behind it?
I
But
mean, I'm
you're the
sure.
tariffs guy.
So there's
Do you think that tariffs did that?
I know tariffs did that.
Okay.
So what again? Like, my point is that trade is not.
No, your point was
largely
is that
not
we're losing
responsible for the
manufacturing
decline.
because of automation, but that's not true because we brought manufacturing into the
absolutely
United
true.
States.
No, I recognize that obviously if you tariff, car production, there's going to be more car production in the United States. It's just that car production is a lot more automated than it used to be. So it's just not going to provide many jobs. That's my point. Again, like I have actual studies I can cite you. You just kind of have this feeling that, you feel like that manufacturing went down because of trade. But again,
I mean, the numbers, all right, look, I really like you. You're a good kid. But here's the thing. Yes, okay, line workers did decrease, but maintenance workers increased because those machines have to be maintained. You know how long and just off the top of my head, because I have a background, and I'm picking on this industry because I have a background in the industry, and I kind of understand it a little better than I would making chopsticks or forks. I just don't understand that industry. I understand automotive industry, and I understand what it takes. But we can apply it to any industry that you're claiming to be automated. Those machines can run about 16 hours a day, and they need 8 hours of maintenance. That means that there have to be people there to do the maintenance. We have not yet successfully gotten machines that can do the maintenance for the people. The people also the machines have to have operators standing there. So yes, you're right, we did lose manufacturing jobs. But we picked up jobs that you don't have to hold your hand up, Gibbs. You're the moderator.
Don't worry. Listen, I'm perfectly well that I'm the moderator. You keep going. Don't worry. I'll speak up. This is how I think, Papa.
I'm waiting for him to get to his point.
Yeah, don't worry about me. This is not my first
point
time.
was perfectly made.
Okay, fantastic.
Well,
here's what's going to happen. Here's what's going to happen.
The reason that you see the manufacturing jobs in Germany specifically, since you used that example, decline is because of the unions that went there. Do you know that Germany shipped their auto manufacturing to Finland of all places to avoid the unions? And when the unions went there, they started making cars elsewhere.
I mean, I'm going to let you rebut. Hold on. I'm going to let you go ahead, Thorne. I'm going to let Thorne go. Then I'm going to let you rebut. Then I'm going to let you move it over to the Fed topic afterwards, since you brought that up. But go ahead, Thorne, rebut, and then we'll let Non-Fon go. Go ahead.
Oh, my point was just that Finland's really pretty. So
thank you. I appreciate the deep input there. Go ahead, Non-Fon.
You're my favorite person on this panel, Thorne.
Yeah. Unironically, he's got a degree in I can't even talk today.
Economics.
Thank you. Beard and the hair and the glasses.
Look, I understand that. Like, I agree with you. Automation usually reduces jobs in some sectors. Like, it will reduce jobs in manufacturing sectors, but it might increase jobs in other sectors because of people need to maintain these machines. The internet automated things, but it also needs people to write the software for all this automation things. I agree, automation can be like a net job increase. So, hey, by the way, guess what? Trade is just a type of technology that lets you indirectly produce the things that we import by first producing things to export and then trading for them. But the reason, again, if that was the reason Germany offshored their production, we wouldn't see this trend across every single developed country. There are good structural reasons behind it. I'll give you just one. Yes. It's the simplest one. There's something called the Baumol effect.
Socialist?
There's something called the Baumol effect. So basically, typically,
I understand that. I asked you a question. Are countries socialist?
Productivity. Do you understand what the Baumol effect is? Please describe to me what it is.
I asked you a question. You didn't answer it.
What was your question?
I said, are those countries
socialist over there?
They're socialists in Germany.
They are.
I don't agree with that. They might be more social democratic.
You don't think Germany's a socialist country?
I do not think Germany.
What's this have to do with the presidency in China, brother?
Because the unions and taxes, brother.
Okay.
Look, I mean, I'm trying to explain to you what is probably a bigger factor than these unions and taxes.
Look, the Baumol effect states that. And I'm saying that you're trying to say that it's because all of a sudden the more advanced we get, the more automation we get, the less jobs there are in manufacturing. I'm telling you that's not necessarily the case.
So
And
that's just the case.
the people offshore those jobs, not because they don't want to pay people to make cars down the street anymore, but because their government makes it impossible to do so. This is, how stupid do you have to be to not understand this?
Okay,
Again,
great. So
we
can I just
have
describe
gained
We
what
got to
some
the
people
you're
to do
stupid
job,
argument. Yay.
but they have been overwhelmingly right. The jobs we have lost because of automation are overwhelmingly more than any jobs we have gained due to like the maintenance of those automation.
Prove that out.
What do you mean?
Well, that's just not particularly relevant because again, my point is just that this decline in manufacturing employment, not decline in manufacturing output, mind you, because when we get more productive,
You said
more
jobs.
things.
You said job. You
Yeah, I
said
said
jobs
jobs,
as
I
a
know.
whole, right? Like,
Yes.
you didn't say, well,
Jobs
the
that- no.
factory's still there because the maintenance, the guys that actually use the press brake 10 hours a day, those guys are gone because we got an automated press brake, but we got 3 guys now that has to take care of that machine. So you literally missed the entire point, and you made a point of saying something that's not true and not accurate.
Everything I said has been way more accurate than everything you said. I can guarantee that. I have actual evidence for the claims
Okay,
that I am
send it
making.
over.
But look, I agree.
over.
I agree that automation
Send it
can't
over.
have
I know
offsetting
you
effects to
agree.
the-
I know that you agree. I understand that you agree.
Yeah. Okay.
You keep
So can
saying,
I
I
please?
agree, but.
Can I? Well, yeah. Because I agree, but I agree that
Because your first
automation
year of
can have.
econ stuff is cool, but it's not that. But you're literally just reading stuff out of a book that
So,
I've lived.
Let me
buddy.
just
True.
let me just move this. All right, we only got a few minutes left before somebody wants to leave, and I know you want to talk about the Fed. Why don't you bring up the Fed and what you want to talk about there?
Let's go with the Fed.
Yeah, let's go to the Fed because I know Tyler's got a hard out in 8 minutes, but we're ending at a hard 30 mark here at the in the next
Hard
hour.
R.
Yeah, 30 mark at the longest for the rest of us. Go ahead with the Fed thing.
Yeah, I think Donald Trump the reports seem to suggest that he's been privately talking about firing Jerome Powell. In his first term, he publicly threatened Jerome Powell. I think he's said even recently that he thinks Jerome Powell would leave if he asked him to. And I think the president should, I can grant unitary executive theory and say the president has the power to fire the Fed chair. That does not make it good to fire the Fed chair because you disagree from a monetary policy. So the question I want to ask, and I want a clear answer, would you condemn at least Trump's action, maybe not condemn Trump holistically, but would you condemn the action of him firing Jerome Powell because he disagrees with him on monetary policy?
Who are you asking?
Both of
It's a
you.
general topic.
Conservatives.
Go ahead, Tyler, since you're the.
I believe he meant.
I guess I'm a conservative now.
Yeah, there you go. You're the conservative now. Go
I
ahead.
didn't think.
Yeah,
I don't think he's very conservative, but
I condemn Trump daily. Yeah, I have no problem with that.
Go ahead, Quid.
So you would, if Trump fired Jerome Powell, you would be against that.
If he broke a rule
If
in
for
doing
monetary policy
so,
reasons.
if he has, like, again, he fired Comey because Comey lied to him. I thought it was kind of petty, but that was where I condemned it. It was petty and unwarranted, but like he had the authority to do it. It didn't fuck up the investigation. They got Mueller in there and shit, so I think that was fine. Ultimately, it would just depend on the context. Where if he just fucking outright fires him and says that's because I can and kiss my ass, everybody, then absolutely, yeah, I think he should bring that dude back from the MS-13 guy back from El Salvador as well. So I'm like, I'll condemn that shit easy.
Grid,
Okay.
do you stand with Jerome
Grid.
Powell?
I'm sorry. Which part am I supposed to be mad about with Jerome Powell?
If Trump fires him because Trump
No. I
wants
understand the question. Which part should I be mad about?
the fact that
I'm
Trump
not mad about it.
interfered with
I don't
monetary
care.
policy.
It honestly doesn't matter to me one way or the other. I think it's within his power. If he wants to do it, he can do it. He doesn't even need to. Honestly, I don't even know that he needs to articulate a reason for doing so.
Okay, so you would
He
obviously
could
agree
literally
that
say,
not
"I don't
everything
like
within the
blue
president's
fucking
powers
shirts."
to do
You
is
wore a
good,
blue
right?
fucking shirt today.
Great. You would
You're
obviously
out.
agree that not everything that is within the president's power to do is good, right?
If it's not good, then why would it be within his power? That's an
What?
insane statement.
Wait, hold on.
buddy.
Wait,
Just
Whoa,
because he can
if
nuke
it's
the whole entire world, it
Everything
doesn't
within
mean
the
that it's not bad,
presidential
you know?
power
if the
is
president nukes
good,
Chicago?
gang. And if the president can
Oh,
do it,
Sure.
apparently
And then they
it's
should
good
like
to
nuke
do.
specifically Gibbs' house.
I don't live in Chicago, thank God. But
Oh, okay.
okay, go ahead. Yeah, but Grit, I don't know.
I
I,
mean-
agree with that. Everything the president can do is good. Well, like, all right, I'll use Doge as an example.
Well,
right?
I can't say that it's good or bad.
So, like,
But you're literally asking me, is it good if he has his power? If it wasn't good, then he wouldn't have the power by definition.
well, hold on.
I mean, he doesn't have
I
right
got this,
Wouldn't
lefties.
have an
Let me fight with him for a second.
Yeah, you
I'm
fight
a-
for us.
I'm a conservative, and I'm from Texas. We don't like big government here. I'm not a libertarian though. I know people
I hate
think
big government.
Yeah, we don't like it. So Elon and he big old guy. He comes in, talks to Trump. They set up Doge. Now I initially have said I am hesitant about Doge because hey, it's not necessarily what they do with it; it's what the people after them do with it. Because just because they have the power doesn't mean it's good. If you get a president that's like the antithesis to everything USA, then like when Biden was in there, because Biden had the powers, everything he was doing was good. I think no. I would think you would think no. Why would you say that just because they're president, the power is good?
That wasn't the question.
Okay, well, maybe
The
explain.
question was, is
the logic there.
it good that he has that power to do so? I
No,
said,
my,
if he
my
doesn't have
question
the
was
power,
specifically
then
if
if
he
he has the power, then
exercised.
it must be able. It must be at least good.
No, Grit, I said I granted
If not,
full-on
then
theory.
remove the power.
No, Grit. So I said, so to be clear, I don't think Trump actually does legally have this power, but I said
doesn't.
I'll grant you
Well, hold
unitary
on. I thought that was
theory.
the first
I
thing
will
you said
grant
was
you that.
you
No,
felt
he
like
was posing the
Yeah.
question that way to kind of get into like a conversation about that.
Oh, okay, I got you.
My question was specifically, let's say Trump exercised the power that I'm granting, that he has the legal right to fire Jerome Powell, but only because he disagreed with Jerome Powell's monetary policy decisions. Would you condemn that action?
Hold on. So if I have the power to fire somebody and I disagree with their actions and I fire them, why would I disagree with that?
Because
you
the
wouldn't-
president probably should not have control over monetary policy. Do you agree with that?
The president should not have direct control over monetary policy. But then
Aren't
again,
you
I don't think the
effectively-
Fed in and of itself should exist. So I think you've got me in a
okay.
bit of a conundrum here.
So there shouldn't be a central bank of the United States.
Let's pause that. We'll come back to that in a second. Tyler, you need an outro. Go ahead and give your outro. And
I'll need an outro after, by the way. as
Sure,
well,
yeah,
so
then
it's
we
fine.
can do it, and that's fine. Go ahead.
I'm supposed to get ready for my show, but fuck
Well,
it,
that's
I don't
fine. We'll
care.
just end it there then. Go ahead. We'll all do outros. Give closing. That's fine. I thought I had one more thing we could go into, but that's okay. We've had a good panel. Go ahead. Start us off, Tyler, with your outro. We'll just go around the bottom and come back up.
Average debate enjoyer. We're going over to right now my Discord to review debates. It's kind of an EFAP style. Pause whenever somebody has an idea. All sorts of shit. If you want to check that out, I'm going to be streaming that, and then we're doing poker night tonight, 11 to 1. That was an open invite for streamers. If you want, just send me a DM. I'll get you in.
All right. Thank you so much, Non-Fun.
I'm Nonfun. I stream on Twitch and Kick on Nonfun420 and YouTube at Nonfun. You should all check out my YouTube channel and watch all the edited debates that I have arguing with all these people about whether tariffs are good or bad and about Trump's tax cuts and all that jazz. Trump's attacks on the Federal Reserve's independence is bad. Trump's tariffs are bad. We didn't talk about the budget or anything, but I think most of the cuts that conservatives, MAGA people want to make to welfare is bad.
That immigration were the next two things I want to hit, but that's okay. Here, you are also just doing something, and I was watching it a little bit last night. Why don't you tell about that too before we let you go, Non-Fun?
Oh yeah, I'm actually right after this. I'm going to go edit that. But I did a panel with Sarah the Raging Tomato, where it was an open panel, and a bunch of people came on to yell at me about why tariffs are good, and I epically owned every single one of them.
Get they asses, bro.
It was. I don't know if I agree with him on all the points, but he was put on a decent show. Thorn, go ahead.
I'm twitch.tv/the Thorn Horn. I like jumping in with like little quick bits and stuff. I wasn't as prepared. This was kind of like 1 hour before.
It was.
Kind of got pulled in. But I enjoyed kind of talking with you guys, listening to different points. I had no idea about like the protests and the big like stock dip in China. That was something that just was not even on my radar. So that was interesting to actually learn about that and stuff. So really appreciate being able to be on here and talk with you guys.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming, especially last minute. I had to replace so many people for this panel, all last minute in the last 48 hours, and you came through in the clutch. But two people that we didn't have to replace. They've been reliable from day one. Wick is one of them. Go ahead, Wick.
Yeah, when I say I do something, I try my best to do it. First of all, Testicle Johnson for $2 to Thorn W. So there you go, Thorn. And that's for Testicle
Woo.
Johnson there. Keep giving me your money, and we'll get to super chats after I leave these gentlemen. Before I leave entirely for the night. But I'm Wick. You can find me at Wick TV on all platforms, at least Kick, Twitch, and YouTube. I do debates. I host them, and sometimes every once in a while I'll jump in. It's fun. Next week we got some great stuff coming up. Okay, I'm going on Sarah the Raging Tomato show as well on Monday, teaming up with Soy Pill to debate. I don't know, some cucks about gender roles. It should be fun. I don't actually know who they are. I should probably find out their names. I just don't care enough. On Wednesday, we're going to have a talk about, is the American empire over? Is America's downfall here? And we're going to have some great guests for that. We're going to have Big Papa Buckaroo. We're going to have Visora. We're going to have New York Shade. We're going to have maybe Mooncake. And it should be fun. I might have other stuff coming up next week. We'll find out. But tune in, check me out. And Gibbs, thank you for hosting.
Thanks for coming. Yeah, and the answer to the question, I'll go ahead and tell you no. It's no. Tell you now it's no, because God damn it, the new American empire is rising, baby. And on to the other reliable one, Grid.
Yeah, so I'm a Grid One Motorsports. I have the channel An Unreasonable Man on YouTube. I used to stream to Twitch, but Twitch is boring, so I don't do that anymore. You can find me there. I will be back live again in just right around an hour. Tonight I have a guest, Dina, something or the other, that makes movies. I don't know, kind of famous. I don't know how famous she is or isn't, but she's going to be a cool guest because she's awesome. I do guests, I do interviews, I do political commentary and satire, and I occasionally debate. I have a debate show on Saturday night where you can win money. Non-fun. I missed you last week. I thought you were. I saw you in the chat, and then you dipped.
I know. I didn't go up. I should have, but
You should have. You
honestly
won
forget
$100.
what happened.
Bucks
I could've.
cash.
Well,
And,
now
anyway,
it's
I don't
next
know.
time.
I think it was editing stuff. I think I woke up like super late that day. I don't know. I think I
I got you.
didn't do it.
I'm sure there will be more opportunities for y'all to yell at each other.
Yeah, every Saturday night, I fired up around somewhere between 8:30 and 9:30 whenever I feel like it, and we go until we have one man standing, and it's cool. It's just, and it's 5 minute blood sport debating. You do not get you get 1 minute to state your position, 5 minutes in the ring, and then you're done. No long-winded speeches except this one.
Thank you.
Anyway, come check it out, man. It'd be great.
Yeah, thanks all everybody for being here. I appreciate y'all, especially you two staying in through it while we had to get some new people in. Yeah, and thanks for y'all being here, and y'all have a good rest of y'all's night. I'll let y'all go. For the rest of us, we're going to be on, me and Thorne will be on a show here in about, an hour and a half. We're going to be on Modi 201's comedy dating show. It's going to be really funny. If you've never seen us, we usually dress up as characters and do wild shit. Yeah, it's good stuff. I'm
Always
pretty
do a
excited.
bit.
But yeah, it'll be good. It'll be funny.
What Scarlet are you dressing like tonight?
I haven't
Bye-bye.
audio switch. I haven't decided yet. I got a whole bunch of new stuff.
Yeah.
And I did find out that Trump was right about everything hat was made in China, which is kind of funny. But that's probably because it's not an official one. I have the official ones down below. Yeah, there you go. That's a good one too. I also got his shirt, the one where he's like doing the little arrow, the little.
That one's signed by the Nuge, bro.
Yeah, but the dating shows are fun. They're pretty humorous if you've never seen them. It's nice, like light fare, as opposed to like all the serious shit all the time.
Yeah.
But we'll probably stream it through. We'll probably stream for the next hour and a half. Until then, just rage. Ads, by the way, guys. If y'all don't like subs, I highly recommend buying Twitch Turbo. Twitch streamers make a shitload of money on that. Make it like you get like for an hour. If you're watching, we make like 40 cents. That doesn't sound like a lot, but if you gotta do a 4-hour stream, we're making about the same off of one person doing Twitch Turbo as they would if they subbed the channel. So that shit makes quite a bit of money, especially if you tune in multiple days in a row. But yeah. Anyway, I think that's all I got for announcements. y'all are welcome to stick around and hang out for a bit. Yeah,
I'll hang out for a minute. I've got to get ready for my show, but
Sure,
it's
absolutely.
easy for me. I'm already set, man. I'm already set.
Yeah,
I'm
let
in
me
the
know
zone.
let me know the details on your debate show. I might be down to come on one day when I'm not out drinking on a Saturday. I like to go and party on my Saturday sometimes.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
It's good times. Or I just do games. Don't know how people do politics every day on here and not just like want to snap. I feel like it's people.
Well, I have a lot of fun with it,
Yeah,
obviously.
I do as well, but still.
But dude, I don't know, man. Night was weird because the like anytime I wanted to dive deep into something, they just like
Well,
repeated the same
I'll
thing
tell you
over and
what.
over.
I'm glad Thorn was available because I originally it was going to be you and Wick versus.
Where's my third?
Well, that's what I was about to tell you. So originally it was going to be you and Wick versus, or you. It was going to be Wick and
Me and Wick?
no, Wick and Econoboy versus you and Abby, right? And Abby is a
Okay.
high level executive, right? She's like one of the fastest of people. And so she texted me. I was like, I can be there 5:30, and then she never got here. And I was like, well, shit. I got 3, and so I brought Tyler in last minute because I thought it was gonna be like 3 and 3 because I'd gotten 2 people that wanted to fill in. Well, then of course one of those people drops, and I'm like, oh well, Tyler will be here, and Grid's always reliable,
Yeah,
and
was supposed to be on.
yeah, and Abby, I'll just call if she's gone, I can just get her on the phone, and she's like, yeah, I'm running late, I'll be there like that, and she's always never been missed before, but life happens. So I was like, oh well, there goes our third, and I would say she's more conservative than Tyler. And then on Thorn here, I asked Thorn an hour before because one of my other lefty econ people dropped, and I was like,
Bill.
yeah, Soy Pill was a replacement for Econoboy.
I thought Nonfon was.
Yeah, well, Nonfon was the replacement. Well, yeah, but Soy Boy. So yeah, he was the other one, and then he dropped, and I was like, son of a bitch. Now I got 3, and then I asked Thorn, and then Abby didn't show up. I'm like, well, I went from having 3 on one side, 2 on the other. I even had notes ready. I was going to argue as a lefty if I had to fill in, and because I try to keep each side fair, and then I didn't.
The arguments that Nonfon continuously uses is like out of a first year econ textbook.
Well, I have the
It's
textbook he has. Thank you so much for the raid, Wick. I have the textbook. It's right behind me. I have it. Yeah, we've even talked about it. It's the same edition as mine. It's not even one of the newer ones. I mean, this is what I keep saying. I said Nonfon's gonna be a Democrat until he makes money. And he's a Republican. I don't know what happened to Thorn here. What happened to you?
What? Oh yeah. My econ just went specifically into real estate stuff, and I go very micro into that. So that's kind of where my econ went with it. And I mean, I had a lot of oddball jobs that happened. So if you don't use it, you lose it, sort of stuff for a lot of that stuff. But general concepts and stuff, I still kind of keep in there. And I don't know, on a daily basis, I work on multilinear regression analysis for determining real estate prices and stuff like that. So
okay. I do. So I have a. I don't. Have I ever told you this? I don't. We're probably still. I know we're still live on.
We
my
are
channel.
still live on my channel. Yeah,
we're still live.
I'm going to stay live. And I'm just killing time now till the day show.
I don't know if you know this, but I've got I have a real estate investment fund, and
yeah, we talked
it
about
renews
this.
it does every 2 years, right? Yeah. So and then I own 4 properties in China.
Okay.
I wanted to buy. I'm looking at buying property in Japan, but Japan is just such a weird market. All the things that I'm like, yes, that's a good buy. They're like, nah, it's never going to sell, man.
Yeah, they're a completely inverse market to any other place in the world,
yeah,
and it's just so weird.
What do you mean by that? Give me an example. I hate to be give me an example, guy, but I don't even have an idea what you're talking about.
The most important factor in a Japanese house is which way, or rather 2, which way it faces and how far it is from the train station. They literally tell you it's a 10-minute walk to whatever the local.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of what they have here, right? With you're whatever distance from school, you're whatever distance from.
Yeah, they don't care about school. They don't care about your school.
No.
On Zillow, Zillow.
Yeah, Zillow.
Here, right?
Yeah, it's a specific thing in the United States where it's whatever your school, if it's a good school or whatever, that's
I would say that because
yeah.
it's comparable, right? Because they're they care about public transit more than they would The school.
Yeah, the linkage is like more heavily weighted towards like the transit than it is like to schools or whatever as like a comparative value to that. That makes sense. I think a big part of like why Japan's so weird really has to do with like their aging population and like that stuff. That's like the inverted triangle for population growth and stuff. So
Yeah.
I think that's like
Oh,
a
that's
huge reason why it's so
There's
weird
empty
there.
houses.
Yeah.
There are houses that are just like there's blocks of houses that are empty, and I can buy them for like 150 US.
Yeah.
So what
Or
you're saying
less.
is we should all get breeding visas for Japan.
Yep, exactly. That's what we need. We're the studs.
They were paying dudes to go,
Yeah,
but you have to meet a certain profile.
Yeah.
You have to meet a profile, and if you qualify, you.
Yeah, I mean, I got red hair, blue eyes. I fit every profile when they.
I don't think you're in that.
They
profile.
love it.
But
They want the
anyway.
Viking blood, bro.
You're not that guy, pal. You're not that
Spanish.
guy.
You're not that guy.
You're not that guy.
It was interesting that Nanfan only wants to talk about what's in his textbook. And when I started pressing him on, do you know why this happens? He's like, well, it's just this linear. It's the curve of, machinery makes things easier until it becomes so easy that you don't need people anymore or as many people, and then there are less jobs. But
So-
that's not why Germany and those countries actually lost manufacturing jobs.
So were you here on Primes last week when we were arguing? I don't think you were.
Man,
I wish you
couldn't
were.
be. I wanted
because-
to be, but I had my
yeah,
kids doing a.
No, I understand. Yeah, but I needed you on this one because I think you and I have a similar mindset when it comes to you're much more willing to trust someone at a macro level. That's someone that's got proven experience at a micro level than someone who's just a theorist, right? Because like theory's all well and good until you get punched in the face, right? And so I'm much more willing to trust someone.
Until you try to make money.
Yeah, well, same thing. It feels like I feel like I'm getting punched in the face every day. But it's like, so we're sitting here going, I've said this, and they're like, oh, well, you're just making fun of it. And I'm like, well, listen, just because y'all are all hoity-toity, educated men, I don't know that that's the all be-all, end-all, be-all. I'm pretty educated myself, right? But I don't think that I got my economic knowledge from a textbook. In fact, I read textbooks and I'm like, you're wrong all the time. Like I think there's something to be said for.
To be honest,
I come
into these confrontations with Wick and Nanfan in a very specific way because I can't take either of them seriously. Right? I doubt seriously that Wick has started a business, grown it, gone bankrupt, and had to start over again.
I've done that. It's
and
awful.
I know Nanfan hasn't. And so you can't, and it's not like it's unfortunate because it is a walk 1,000 miles in my shoes sort of fallacy, but
why do I go bankrupt my soul?
I just can't take them seriously because they don't deep dive into why culturally. Why did the factories move out of Germany? Well, I actually know why because at the time I was involved with Porsche, and Porsche literally moved all production of the Boxer, their brand new car that Germany was counting on to support. The labor unions were counting on production of that car in Germany to actually be able to pay all of their union dues and everything, and they moved it to fucking Finland, dude. Like that was crazy, and it caused a bunch of stir in Finland, and Mercedes has moved plants to the U.S. I think there's one in Brazil now, and I think there's one or two in China. BMW has plants in China and the U.S. So while I don't agree with globalization on a government level, certainly I understand why Germany wants to make their cars here now, right? Because German cars have always been super expensive because they have to pay their government such a high tax rate. Like they think coming here is getting a discount, which is insane. And some of the stuff Wick says is just fucking insane. Like I don't know, is he high or what?
I don't know that he does anything. I mean, I'm stoned all the time, and I feel like I make a lot of sense.
Than he does for sure. But yeah, I don't know, man. It's very interesting to me. I got to jump off though. I got to get ready for my show.
Sounds good.
I haven't heard back from my guest tonight, which always makes me really fucking nervous.
Yeah, I feel that.
You You've been there,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and so I
Um,
got to go take care of that. But you guys have been cool. It's good to meet you, Thorin,
yeah,
son
the
of
Thornhorn. Yeah.
son of whatever from the Lord of the Rings. Is that
Uh,
that's what?
no, it's just I just thought that it was a cool name in middle school, and I stuck with it. So it's just Thornhorn. So yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. All right. Well, it's interesting. I think that I wasn't able to interact with Nonfon on the Raging Tomato last night because I had to help my kid with his homework. So anyway,
Anyway.
that was annoying too because I really wanted to like go up there, especially when the Furby started screeching. That was not as cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, anyway, I'm gonna go. You guys have fun. Be cool and
Yeah.
Guys,
do good stuff.
you be good.
Okay, man.
Yep.
We're gonna
Absolutely.
have an
I will.
episode of How Toxic is Gibbs right now is what's about to happen after you leave. You be good. And
How toxic is Gibbs?
the answer
Not
is
very right now. He's
extremely
really
toxic.
calm.
Wait,
Yeah, y'all about
the
to find that
Latino
out.
is toxic.
The,
Okay, let's
the
go.
Latino side's about to come out. We're about to do some really funny fucking shit here in the
I'm-
next like 30 seconds.
I'm apparently very toxic, but that's okay because I'm cool.
Yeah, no, I am.
Yeah, he's just
I
a cool
am.
guy.
I think when
Just
we're
a
talking
chill
about
guy.
toxic, we're talking about different things. I gotta be honest, but
Oh, I forgot to tell Wick not to take anything personally. That when I called him stupid and dumb and all
yeah,
those
he'll be
other
fine.
things,
I'm
it's
sure
a
you can
part of
just
the
message
show.
him. He'll be fine. He understands how it works.
I'm not going to
I am.
message Wick.
It's fun to see Wick doing more of these panels instead of moderating because I feel like when I watched him on Tim Pool, you could tell he's used to moderating and like
Well, he's used to muting people.
Yeah,
and when he
he's-
can't do that, it just fucks him up.
Well, I mean, he's working on. I think he did good today. I like seeing him on more of these panels where he's the person. I like to see. I personally like doing both. I like to like go on shows and like be the person, and then I like to moderate. And
Yeah.
it's fun. It's different challenges. But I know
And
you got to get out
produce.
of here.
Yeah.
I really got to go now. See you guys.
Okay, so yeah.
I actually hate producing. That is my
Yeah.
least favorite part. Like when people are like I'm a producer, I'm like you're a nobody.
Yeah, well, I mean, like you're moderating and also you're like producing it. You're bringing all the people together. You're coordinating all that stuff onto there.
Oh,
that
yeah,
does
that's
move into
true.
the producer role. So
Well, yeah, I guess that's true. I meant more like like with Claus, like I made this. I produced this. Like
Oh, yeah, no,
that
no.
doesn't count. So
no,
this is funny. If you go to a stream, just correct me if I'm wrong, and that you've been
Correct you if you're
previously
wrong. You're wrong.
if you're following them and you're sub to them,
Uh-huh.
and then it goes to the stream, it says it's blacked out and it says content restricted. That means they blocked you, right? That's funny.
I think so.
Good. We're about to troll the shit out of somebody because this is
Ooh, perfect.
yeah, buddy. All right, so they did that, but it says my subiversary is in chat, so I'm gonna just go in there and I'm gonna put like, woo, content restricted sign.
I think I know what character I want to do for the show, but I don't know an outfit that really works for it.
Oh man, that's funny. Coach Kurt, how you doing? One man show. Yeah, I know you know the stream. I don't know, like Coach Kurt. So this is something that's different, like from the politics streaming to the dating show, and even like the shows like Modi does, where he does like the Royales. I think that like the most I do is like 8 people, or it's like 44, and that's chaotic. But like even then, the debate shows, it's like I can be like, nope, you're all muted, or like yada yada. But like with the Royale shows, they're like 13, 14 people. And like, or even some of the dating shows, like 12, 14 people. And I'm like, how, like, this is just chaos. How is this a thing? No, not all the dating shows, a lot of them. Modi's, yours, Kurt. Y'all like, all right, like knock them out. But some of them are like, crazy. And I've never understood how that's appealing, where it's just like total chaos where nobody can hear anything. There's like 12 people doing different things in a room. I don't know.
Well, I think that used to be like kind of what the Austin show was really known for, and what like really propagated like a lot of like its traction and success with it. Was just that it was like a free for all the time with it, and like people would jump over people, and just like it would be chaos. But I don't know, like Austin would like kind of rein it in at times and like expand it at times and stuff with it. But I think it's just like you have to have a very particular person and have like a very particular like respect to the person that's on there. Otherwise, it's a shit show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's funny. They did block me. Oh, yeah, the trolling's about to begin, bro.
The trolling has begun.
Mm-mm-mm.
Have you done like any research on the person that's going to be on?
I don't even know who it is. Do you know who it is?
Not very well. Apparently, like she's a YouTuber or something, but not like super big and stuff.
What is it? I don't even know what the name is. Do you know what the name is?
It's a space because I wanted to do like at least a little bit of research so I know like how to frame my character.
Yeah, what are you gonna do? Do you know?
Yeah. So I think that I was gonna do just a gay bestie to her and just like try and get all the men out or like flirt with the men and make them uncomfortable with that and have them sit in that. It's kinetic and then space Kel, Kell, on YouTube.
Kinetic Cal. Where is YouTube? Kinetic Cal. You know, spell. Hold on, let me get here. Spell that for me. K.
Kinetic, or no, just C, and then space Kell.
Okay.
And I think that she did like a dating show a couple of weeks ago, and Scumbag was on there.
I see. Kind of looks like Chai.
I think
Yeah,
that was.
yeah. I think Chai set him up with it too.
Yep.
I told him we should get Buckaroo on there, and he was like, "No." But like then like 5 people without even me prompting him like asked the same thing, and I'm like, "Bodie," he said, "This is what the people want." He's like, "No." I'm like,
No, I don't want to.
I'm like, she'd be good because she's sassy. I think it'd be funny.
Yeah.
I think sassy girls are good for the shit. Like they're not like a lot of times these girls are like afraid to talk.
Yeah. But like when they clap back at it, it's like great. And it's actually good content with that.
Yeah, I think that would be a good one. I think that you should definitely do that. Some of these like dating show girls, like they don't ever talk. They just sit there, and I'm like boring. I need like some
Like the
spice.
Alice show.
The Alice one. Oh,
That- Oh, that was so hard.
I mean, that was like a first one. He didn't really have the rules
Yeah.
laid out. Like
Yeah.
she was like inviting people, bro. But I honestly think that's why the whole beef to him beef started.
Was the Alice show?
Yeah,
Why? Is it because like she's so ingrained in Cupid's community?
no,
or
because
something?
so she was like, so Modi was like trying to like keep it like run the show, right? And then Misha
Yeah.
all, and so then he gets, but he ends up getting like you know like over 100 viewers with the shared, and he had like
Oh, yeah.
50 or whatever himself, and so like Misha and all of them showed up, and they like showed up late after they told him they weren't going to do it, right?
Oh, right.
And-
Yeah.
because
yeah.
Alice is like, look how many people we got. Come on in. I want you to come. And he's like, no, Alice, we already have our people. Right, like let's finish
Oh,
out.
yeah.
It's too late now. We're supposed to be going into final rounds, and you would invite like 5 more people in. You know,
Oh, yeah. And then like I got screwed out of $50.
yeah, and then like yeah, they got getting screwed out of money. I mean, I guess she was the one fronting the money too for it though, or
Yeah.
something. So like, sure, I guess, but I mean, I think it went well because then he did the next week, and it was like organized, and people were like, oh, this is actually entertaining, not a shit show. And I think it's
Yeah.
done. Like I keep telling him, even if it's like not the best show, doing it every week. Like you know, some shows are gonna be
It's
not.
huge.
Yeah, not every show with The Price is Right is a great one, but like some of them are like really memorable, and some are like, oh yeah, it was good. You know, it wasn't like you know, you don't have to
Yeah,
hit
it's
the
just
ball.
the consistency factor of it. And like if you get that consistency factor, people will keep on coming back to it and
Yeah,
stuff.
and like I went live early, and I don't usually go live early at this time, right? And my numbers were like so. But like anytime
Yeah.
I start early, and then I like go through my time about like 8, 8 o'clock my time, like I see my numbers like go way up because all the other people that they usually tune into are off and they know I'm on. So people like migrate, and it's the consistency thing because they know
Yeah.
to expect you at a certain time, at a certain day. Like, oh, Friday, Bodie does this show. Like, Thursdays, Gibbs does this. Oh, and if he's not doing this, he'll be live. Like it's the same thing.
Yeah.
But I keep telling him that, but he's just like, I don't know. He wasn't listening. But yeah, I think that's probably where all that stemmed from. Is the I think because he like told him no, and then they like kissed and made up. But I think maybe on one side they kissed and made up, but on the other side
They just were holding a grudge and
holding the
then just let it
grudge.
fester.
Yeah, let it
Yeah,
fester.
fester and turn into like something more than it actually ever should have been, and then just like pulled out fake justifications for it at the end.
Yeah, and Testy, you're here a lot. So like I said, I am a prophet of the Lord, and he wants you here. Is what it seems like.
Sweet baby Jesus.
Are you live right now? Are you in the? Are you in the thing? Yeah, you are in the thing. Good.
Yeah, I'm live. I don't know. I've been doing like some streams.
Yeah,
and
thanks
stuff.
again for coming in last minute. By the way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Had a good time with it.
the little witty marks were hilarious. They were good. I mean, and I know if you wanted to get in there, you could have. I mean, you were at the beginning pretty hard going into him. Like a few of those times, I was like, oh, good, he's ready, and he's here.
Yeah.
So that was good. I was like, yeah, you're not gonna. I was like, one thing I'm not worried about is if they come hit Thorne with like a "you're an idiot" one liner. I'm like, and then I don't remember what you said. You just like repeated it back to him. I was like, well, I don't, whatever. I was like, yeah, they're gonna get him with that. This is if there's. And I'm more worried about the substance and less worried about him getting hit with a zinger because he's definitely gonna fire something back at him. He's gone on the other side.
I just don't think there should be people in the United States. That's it. That was a great one. But yeah, I don't know. Like sometimes, like when it gets into like kind of like those circling things, I just go more and more into like the nihilist like perspective on everything, and then I'm like, okay, let's just go into that hyperbole, and then it recenters a little bit. But I don't know.
Yeah. It was good.
I don't know. I'm not as great with like kind of setting the debate up. I've never been a great debater, but I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's just like anything, more practice. And like there's a difference between like Twitch debate and like formal debate and even like semi-formal Twitch debate where like listen, my chest is nice. I do all right, Papa. I'll tell you a fat person problem that I'm having that I had the first time I lost weight and I'm having it again now. As I lose weight, you'll like lose weight and like you'll see like I've lost a bunch of weight from the top of my stomach, right? And so, like, you lose weight in different spots. Like, at first, I lost a bunch of weight here in my eye, and, like, this part's gone down some. And, like, you would see little balls of, like, fat. And then over, like, the next day or so, those would, like, disappear. And then, like, when you lose weight, like, I've lost a bunch of weight from the top of my stomach. So it, like, makes you look worse in some aspects. Because it's like, oh, there's this, like, area of gap. Where before it was just, like, uniform. So it's like, oh, this stands out more. Like, you look at where like, it moves or something. But then, like, a week later, like, that kind of, like, evens out. These are problems. These are problems.
They are problems.
I can always wipe my ass and I can always see my dick. Thank you, Testy. But yeah, they're good problems. But what were we just talking about? The debate. Yeah, I think there's a difference between like formal debate and like semi-formal debate or even like blood sportsy debate on here. And that's like the entertainment value along with the fact. Facts. Listen, these are real world problems, Rabbit. People want to roast people, but I'm a man of the people. I'm gonna share my weight loss journey so other fat people can understand.
Yeah, fat people rise.
Yeah, they're not the only ones who listen. When you people have been naturally skinny their whole lives, they don't understand what it's like when you lose weight, what problems to expect. They think it's just immediately they're gonna start getting six packs or like, hey, seeing some muscle tone. No, you look worse for like a little while, then you look better because it's like
it's just a gradual thing that happens over time. Of it. It's the process.
It's the process. You gotta trust the process, Rabbit.
And trust the process.
And like, I'm a pretty confident guy. Like, it's not gonna bother me. I think I'm a 10. If I gained another 200 pounds, I think I'm a sexy man, right? And I got the gift of gab. But like some people, they don't have that, so they can get educated. But anyway.
Educated, yes.
Yeah, so I think like when you go do these debate panels, I think some of it does have like the showmanship aspect, and a lot of people don't like that. They're like, we just want to do straight debate. I'm like, well. If you can't beat somebody's showmanship, then you aren't really a good debater.
Yeah. And I don't know, like there is like you have to have like some sort of entertainment factor to it. It's not like we're doing like a news channel debate thing, like where that's strictly what it is. It's not that. It's about it. It's on Twitch. It's on like the online platforms. It's
Well, even the news
getting
is
some
like
people.
that. Like if you watch
Yeah.
Fox News, they have like pundits and then they like talk shit to each other. Some
Yeah. You have to
Yeah.
have like some like lightness and like brevity to it. Otherwise, it's just like two people yelling at each other for like hours and stuff. And everybody loves that.
yeah, it was good. I like this shirt, by the way. It's a very good shirt.
Hey, I
Yeah.
appreciate it. Yeah, it's a Rick and Morty one, and I put it on, and my parents were like, "Why do you have a spider shirt on?" I'm like, "It's cool."
Yeah, I was like, I'm debating what I want to do for this character tonight.
What's the character idea?
I don't know. Like I've done the religious thing. Ooh, I got a
Yeah.
new jacket. I may try this out and just be like a Coke dealer here. Let's see again, but I got a new one. Let's see.
Another Coke dealer.
Oh, I got a good one, bro. Maybe not the Coke dealer one. That was pretty good. But look at this jacket.
That was hilarious.
That was so good, bro. I was like coughing up fucking shit for hours after that. Hours. Here, let's try this out. We'll do a little
I
trial.
was like rocking in my chair laughing. At that.
Bro, I was like, bro, and then like I was just, bro, and because what you don't realize is like, so I had so much in my nose and throat, and it's like it sucks moisture.
Yep.
So I'm just over here like,
Dying. Yep.
oh, we're definitely wearing this shit. Oh man, I might have to get let out some.
That looks like a Guy Fieri jacket.
Yeah, that's what I was going for.
Oh hell yeah!
Yeah, this is gonna be a little more weight loss, so I'm gonna have to get this take the weight little thing, but it's close. Ugh.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a good one though. I fucking have been buying all sorts of shit off
yeah.
from these Chinese manufacturers directly. Yeah.
Oh, you're doing like those ones? Okay, cool.
Bro, I got like a whole bunch of new watches. I got like some like and not even the Temu ones, right? Like the good ones. You know, they're like I got some like
Like the Rolex ones and stuff like that.
not
or-
Rolex. Rolex is Swiss,
Okay.
but yeah, like I did
Well, I
get.
thought that they did some of them like through China and stuff, but I don't know.
Well, those are I mean, yeah, but those not. It'll never be a Rolex. It might be a Rolex knockoff. It's got
Yeah.
a Japanese movement. But yeah, I mean, I have some like knockoff like this is a knockoff Japanese Rolex. This one says like what does it say? Rinaldi, and it looks just like a Rolex. I mean,
Looks nothing like it.
yeah,
Actually, it does. It looks like pretty good.
yeah, it's a Jubilee. I mean, you could tell with the clasp that it's not the right one. And
I just got
it's
this
its
one
brand right in the
recently,
middle of
but-
it.
Yeah, this one isn't like as cool as yours, but like it's just a Casio. I just recently
The
got it.
Casios are good.
Yeah.
I have like a lot of real watches, like really good ones, and then I have like cheaper ones. I collect watches. I just like watches in general.
Oh, okay. Cool.
This is like a
I
present.
used to collect coins, and
Here's a
I think
presidential.
my favorite. Ooh,
Yeah.
nice.
You can see the difference
Yeah.
in size because this is like the what is it? Jubilee? Not Jubilee. This is that'd be a date just size, even though it's a fake one. But this is the actual. This is the classic, presidential. It's a lot smaller.
Mhm.
It's pretty cool.
Nice. All right, I should probably get some dinner going.
All right,
and
you do your
stuff.
thing. Thank you so much, hang
Yeah,
out.
yeah, I appreciate it.
guys. We got an hour to kill. We're gonna do something here. I'm going to we'll put this on. Transition this. Yeah, Mel, you want to come join me for a little bit? You should be a contestant on Modi's dating show. Are you working? We love to help. Follow Mel Heasey.
I'm not ready. I woke up like 30 minutes ago.